Alright, we're gonna try this one last time to see if I can actually get a person that I really sort of know more personally that I can say this kind of stuff to. And just to try to get practice to see if I can actually to actually do. Oh wait, in the speech chat, why is the speech chat not working? This is weird. Okay, I'm gonna turn off the display capture. Okay. Is it connected? Okay, so why am I not hearing the speech chat? So we're not debating the vegans today. What's going on that anything else again? Hi again. Wait, so this is okay. Sorry, so I was just doing stuff. We could do the debate now. Maybe. Wait. Let's just see. Why is the speech chat not working? Is this working now? Test.
Test.
Okay, now it's working. Is my audio working? Is it okay? Okay. Okay, well, since I'm still stuck with the same people, I might as well. Might as well. I don't have anything else to do. Let's do this. I'm also doing this to show that I'm not afraid of debating people. It's true that overall I've been saying that I wasn't going to debate people. I wasn't going to stream anymore, rather, just because I don't think there's much point. However, I do think a debate against a more seasoned debater could actually be useful to show that I don't fear doing it. It's more retrospectively, right? Because what I'm expecting is that I'll meet some sort of like very unique people that will enable me to become famous. I'm sort of hoping that this is what the Gorth is. Well, not just hoping, but expecting that this is what the Gorth is intending. So that is my overall plan, which is why I haven't been streaming, right? Because there's not really anything I could gain from it.
Can you introduce yourself in a way that says you eat meat while having a non-contradictory moral system? In general chat.
Okay, let's do this. Okay, I'll just see if everything's safe now, so we're not gonna see my personal details like I quickly showed last time. Okay, display capture. Here we go. You're seeing that, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't. Window capture doesn't work. So when I go back to looking at to my Streamlabs thing, then you don't see this thing anymore, which is crap. But anyway, hello. I am Nathan L. Hello, I'm Nathan L. What Senator Kira. I'm a small Twitch streamer and a person. I don't know, a viewer person called. I know that Senator Kira is not really a person called Senator Kira, but I don't know how to say this. Suggested. It's more than suggested. Encourage me to come debate veganism. I am not a vegan myself because I can't be. No, it's not I can't be bothered because I don't see it as being objectively morally superior, as being clearly objectively morally superior. I am utilitarian, or as I call it, well, no, I just meaning I'm not going to write that. I'm a utilitarian, meaning that I care about maximizing enjoyment and minimizing suffering. But it's not clear that veganism achieves
They
this.
know all the philosophy terms.
Okay, I'm still spelling out. Okay, but I'm not clear that veganism achieves this, given that meat eating can cause environmental destruction. Destruction causes, not just can cause, it causes environmental destruction, which diminishes the population of animals in the wild, thereby decreasing the total suffering of animals in the wild. Okay, I think that covers it, doesn't it? Are you satisfied with that, Senator Kira? Or should I just call you Kira? Or just Senator?
Very much so.
Okay.
I really hope you can debate Avi.
Looks like you're the only viewer here at this point, but as long as I got somebody, I guess it's worthwhile. Even if I got nobody, then people can see it afterwards. However, I don't think that this is gonna, like, I don't think somebody's just gonna answer right now, you know? Why don't you
I
want
have
to?
high hopes.
Why don't you? I mean, what I would expect instead is that they would schedule a debate, right? They would schedule a debate, and then we would just have the debate, like on some other day. I'm just not really sure I can be bothered, but it would be good. In any
I'm
case, it's also
ESL
good
and
to.
I've only been reading philosophy for 4 months.
What's ESL? I don't know what ESL is. But
English second language.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, so that's why you don't want to debate me? It's like because you don't feel comfortable because it's not your first language and because you haven't read much philosophy. Fair enough. Well, what
Go
is your
to roles and pick the meat eater role.
Okay. I don't is it on the left here too? Roles, okay. Okay, what is it? Oh, so this is non-vegan, okay. What are these other things? B? What is B? What is champagne? What is poop? What is middle finger? Like what are
Just click non-vegan.
Yeah. Oh, there are quite a lot of non-vegans apparently. Okay. Okay, is there anything else I'm supposed to do? But yeah, so you see, like, there's not gonna be anybody that just comes here right now. I think I'm gonna change the title of
These
my.
people respond to callouts.
I'm gonna change the title of my stream. So I'm just gonna hide this and just go on Twitch and change the title since I'm no longer it's no longer the same kind of thing. I'm gonna write debating veganism and I'm gonna. Can I edit this? Oh, I guess I can't edit it. Oh, I guess I have to edit it through Streamlabs. How do I edit my stream? How do I edit the title of the stream through Streamlabs? No idea. Edit stream title, Streamlabs. Open your chat box by clicking the sidebar arrow. Click on the edit icon at the top left of the stream chat section.
At Senator Kira, imagine that.
What the? What the? Oh, here. Oh, here, I found it. I found it. Debating veganism, I guess. I'm gonna call this instead. Question mark. Update. Okay. Close.
Avi probably asleep.
I'll be probably asleep. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Sam, you're still here. The other people seem to. There's Shan Yang Gang, but apparently Shan Yang Gang has gone. Probably because I wasn't answering initially because I didn't hear the speech chat. Hence the importance of speech chat. Without speech chat, I just miss people, and when you don't answer them quickly, they just go away. So that speech chat has been super useful. At first, I didn't have speech chat.
Still here.
And it was. Wait, okay, Gendrick Bender. I was referring to Shang. I didn't even realize you were here because I actually stopped. I had stopped streaming for a bit. I was referring to Shangang, but okay, yeah, good to know you're here, Gendrick. Great. So I've got 3 viewers now. For some reason, the viewer count is never accurate. I don't know how that works. Like it never seems to be. It never seems to be accurate. Like it's often a bit off somehow. So, anyway, why don't any of you want to debate veganism?
I'm listening to 2 streams ATM.
Oh, okay, so you're still here too. Okay, cool. Thanks.
So not paying full attention.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't require full attention. I'm not that needy. Especially if I've got other people that whose attention I have. Why don't any of you people want to debate me? Senator, what's Kira? What's your first language?
I'd debate you, but I wouldn't want to hurt your feelings by winning too hard.
Yeah, right.
Finish.
Okay, yeah, so I'm not gonna be debating in your language.
Kappa.
Oh crap, my battery's
I like
low.
Finns. Very autistic people.
It's true that they have a reputation for being a bit autistic. I'm a part Finnish, like just a small part Finnish, I guess. My grandma, one of my 2 grandmas is Finnish, sort of, except that she's
not as autistic as Norwegians.
Except that she's like half Swedish Finnish anyway. So like I'm like an 1/8 Finnish probably, but then who knows like what the mixes were like. But I'm between an 1/8 and a 1/4 Finnish, but I don't speak any Finnish. I guess my grandma, she speaks a bit of Finnish still, but not even, because she was like a descendant from Finnish immigrants. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm not gonna debate you in Finnish. You don't wanna
just so YK, these vegans are ruthless.
Yeah,
Eastern
well, you already
Finns
said
and
that.
Western Finns pretty distinct.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, so I guess she would have been Western because she was like from part. Well, no, I don't even know because like her mother was like Finnish because she had a Finnish name, and her father was like Swedish Finnish because he had a Swedish name. But so I don't know. So, but yeah. Anyway, so what if I just pretend I'm not a native speaker? And anyway, I haven't studied philosophy.
Well, distinct by the standards of like being in the same European country.
Of course. What if I just pretend to not be? What if I just like pretend to speak poor English? What if I just speak bad English. Would that make you feel better?
Can't you go in the voice channel and mute yourself until someone joins?
Oh, okay. Well, sure. It didn't occur to me that. Okay. How do I mute myself? How do I mute? Oh, here we go. Where? Mute. Okay, I muted myself.
Sorry, I
Okay.
used modal language there. I'm trying to do better.
What do you mean by modal language? But anyway, so yeah, like all of you people are sort of wanting to debate,
I
but why
said
don't why?
can't.
Okay. So you mean like, oh, like you? I don't even know those terms. Like, see, you say that you don't know English, but you like know better English than me. Like I don't even I don't even know like what modal language means. I guess you mean that instead of doing an imperative, like instead of saying go to the voice channel, please, you you like asked a question can't, or is it that you didn't put the apostrophe in the can't? Uh, I can research what does modal language mean. Modal language. Yeah, I don't even know this stuff. Something that is likely desirable or permissible. Ugh. Yeah, but this is the sort of stuff that you learn when you learn English, but I never learned, I mean, as a second language, right? If you just learn English as the first language, this is, it's sort of hard to, it's sort of hard to, man, this is violent. This is much too violent, the white screen. Okay, I'm gonna go on here.
Aren't you ESL too? I thought you were born in Switzerland.
No, I'm first language. I mean, well, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm first language in the sort of first in the colloquial sense. I mean, I my first language is indeed French, but I'm a native speaker, and as much as I learned it just like that through my dad. Um, but so it is a second language in a sense, but it's not. I mean, it's still a native language, so it's not. It's not. It's not the same. Um, mhm. Okay, force and flavor. This is interesting stuff. Could, should, must. Modal. Yeah, I remember these modal verb things. I think that for some reason when they teach English, they mention this a lot. I could study this stuff, but it's just too hard. Like I don't like it's tiring, and I don't really feel the needs. I don't really like I don't feel like I would be able to like it would be useful for me or for me to learn it, or nor would it be useful for anyone else for me to have learned it. Yeah, yeah. Um, but that's not like it's not a problem to use a can't you go into that
Are
like
you
that's just
worried you
regular
label
English.
too many terms as axiomatic sometimes?
That's a good question. Um, no, like it's a bit frustrating. I mean, because I realize that then people are not going to be satisfied by that, right? I realize that people are gonna just be like they're gonna think it's a bit of a cop out, right? Um, because then there's no more debate to be had. You know, you just say like you gotta accept this, and either you do or you don't. Um, I'm not worried about it because I know that that's just the case. I don't label that many terms as axiomatic. They're pretty. there are pretty few terms that are labeled as axiomatic. It's just that I tend to concern myself with the basics precisely because that's the only thing that I'm really good at. And so as a result, I tend to
What are your
discuss
thoughts on AI and ChatGPT?
axiomatic stuff a lot. Hello, Gary. What exactly do you mean? What are my thoughts? So yeah, I have been thinking about AI. Um, Most especially, I've come up with what I believe to probably be the ideal what I call prime directive, or utility, primary utility function. Um, and so, like, lots of people have been saying that there is no such thing, and I think to the contrary that there is, to a degree, although it's a bit dicey still, and it's not clear how to define it exactly. Um, so my thoughts on AI is generally that it's a good thing, and it's extremely useful. It has to be done. In any case, if we collectively decide to not do it, probably some rogue force is going to do it. So you kind of have to create it precisely to beat the bad people. And then the important thing is to make sure that it's quote aligned, which means that it actually does what you want it to do. That basically it satisfies your preferences, and which is why I've basically decided. I mean, to me, it's obvious that the ideal, what I call prime directive again, is simply a kind of a tautology. It's basically to do what you want it to do, right? That's how you define the directive. Um, and so, more specifically, you make the directive to be that you maximize the rating that people would give it if they knew what the AI would have done over its lifetime. Like if you had some people and you just sort of brought them up to heaven, so to speak, so that they can see the entire lifespan of the universe and see what the AI does over that entire time, right? And then they get to give a score to the actions of that AI. Then the directive of the AI is to maximize that score. Okay, so that is what I think is a prime directive, and as a result, I feel quite confident that we can have a quote aligned AI and super intelligence, not just sort of regular intelligence like now. Um, and but for now, of course, we don't yet know how to program it correctly so that it actually can follow through with that. Can actually respect that and self improve and stuff. So and I definitely think that as long as you don't have an AI that you're sure is aligned, then it is something very dangerous. I mean, an unaligned AI is extremely dangerous. I mean, if it's a super intelligence. And as a result, even though I'm very much a proponent of automation of all production, economic production, right, which means having robots do everything, I actually think that that should be delayed until we know that we have a good super AI, because otherwise there's a risk that a bad super AI could take over, and because then the robots would be in charge of production, and presumably if they're in charge of everything, that would also mean like security, so like police and stuff. And if an AI can just take over robots, which it likely could, then it would. Oops, somebody. Is there somebody on the Discord? No. What was that sound then? Huh. Maybe somebody was there before. Oh, it says I'm voice connected? No, I'm muted. Okay. Then yeah, then that would be very dangerous. So as a result, I think we should delay automation, and we should automate no more. I mean, not automate as much as would enable an AI to take over until we know that we have a properly aligned super AI. So ChatGPT, I don't have that much of a thought so far. I mean, it seems to be pretty smart in some ways, but it doesn't really seem to be a full general intelligence either. So it's just it's obviously an important step in that direction. It's definitely impressive. But I'm not concerned about ChatGPT in and of itself, although it's certainly an indication that powerful things could happen, could end up being created quite
Do
soon.
you believe AI will lead to UBI?
Well, I'm a proponent of UBI already. So in that sense, yes, I mean, once in any case, UBI becomes a complete necessity once you automate everything, and it becomes. I mean, UBI becomes possible once most people stop working in agriculture. So as I've explained out, in other streams, that first happened in Britain in about 1800, and globally that only happened very recently in the 2000s. Um, well, based on my slightly arbitrary criterion of no more than one third of people work in agriculture. So I think UBI is viable now, um, and it's not yet quite necessary. But it becomes necessary, obviously, once there's complete automation. So yes, of course. Um, I mean, technology more generally leads to UBI. Yeah. It's it's essentially automation, right? I mean, it's automation that enables people to work less in agriculture because it's automation that makes agriculture more efficient, right? That's why, I mean, it's efficiency in agriculture that enables less people to work in agriculture. And as a result, that's also a form of automation. So it's just a much more crude form of automation. And then there's just the ultimate automation where everything is done by robots. And that's when UBI becomes necessary. So yeah, that that's my stance on that. So all these things are related, and so obviously these are all things I have an interest in, but just at a very basic level like that, because I'm too stupid to really think about it at a more complicated level. And I mean, not even necessarily too stupid, but I'm just not that smart. I'm a lot less smart than a lot of other people, and
Do
I
you
feel
think
that
we
that's
can
not
adopt
where
a
my particular
presupposition
talents
that it
lie.
ought be a nonviolent act to save a life?
I don't know what you mean by that. It ought to be a nonviolent act to save a life. What's do you mean UBI, or do you mean are you referring to UBI, Sam, or are you referring to something else? I'm not sure. Like for UBI, I
No.
okay. So I don't know what that I don't understand that sentence. Are you referring to veganism again or something? Is that what this is about? Is anybody going on the channel? And doesn't anybody want to actually debate me, like have a voice debate? Because it's more fun to have a voice debate because see, like typing's a pain, and I know typing's a pain, and so it's sort of it's a pretty one-sided debate. It's sort of like a monologue by me, and sort of just responding to with a few little responses uh, from the viewers. But it's true, it's not quite the same. You can't. I mean, the other side doesn't quite go as much in depth. Um, so I don't know, but well, what do you people think about that? About AI? Do you
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What I mean is, could it be moral to save a life even if you know the person you're saving is going to lead an immoral life?
okay? That so now I understand that. Um, Basically, it depends how immoral that life is, right? Again, from my perspective, you just sort of add up the amounts of immorality and morality and stuff, and you just and you see also how it affects third parties. So basically, the thing is that do you really know that that person's going to lead an immoral life? Like that's kind of the issue there. Like if you really knew that that person was going to be super evil, then no. But
What's
how
up,
would you know
bro?
that?
Do you still work as a waiter?
No, hi, Flat Earth Bill. No, I only worked for a few weeks as a waiter. It was much too tiring for me. I mean, heck, even just talking on stream like this is pretty tiring for me. So, working as a I just couldn't do it anymore. I was just getting exhausted. Um, I have this post weird COVID degeneration thing. So as a result, I just kind of can't I can't really work anymore. I mean, I was already pretty tired before, but now I really can't. Um, so uh, yeah, so like in theory, if you knew that, like the classic example is, do you kill baby Hitler? Like, if you knew that baby Hitler was going to turn into Hitler, then yeah, sure, you kill baby Hitler. But the thing is that you don't know that. So, um, in practice, you probably should be saving a life, um, for that reason, because you don't know if that person's going to lead an immoral life. Now, if that person has already been extremely immoral, then, so I'm hearing Discord noises again. But, oh, maybe I got oh, maybe did I get a message? Oh, I got a message. Oh, I got a message. Interesting point. Your whole cause worker just wrote, interesting point. Okay, good. Um, and another thing is that, like, you have to think about all the, yeah, like the risk of,
That's me.
oh, that's you. Oh, thank you. Okay. Um, what if you
I'm
end
trying
up,
to bait them into joining VC.
okay. Thanks. Um, what if somebody, like, what if you didn't save somebody because you thought that person would be immoral, but it turns out that the person would be moral? And I think basically in practice, you can't know who's going to be moral and who isn't. On the other hand, if somebody has been already extremely immoral, then yeah, I mean, then you can just see it as a form of death penalty. But then it's not that you're not saving. Again, I think that there's no distinction between active and passive. So to me, not saving somebody is killing somebody. So basically, the question is it moral to kill somebody that you know is immoral? So you can't know if that person in the future is going to be immoral. But if that person has been immoral in the past, then should that person, is it considered acceptable to kill that person?
Well, the
Um,
example would have been saving a non-vegan life.
yeah. Um, so is it acceptable to kill a person that's immoral? Then yes, I consider it acceptable. Um, that is my stance. I haven't always had that stance. It's a sort of pretty new development. I used to think it was a bit too harsh and a bit too severe. I was anti-death penalty. Now I'm kind of, it's not even necessarily pro-death penalty. It's not even so much as punishment, but really just more as eliminating people who just aren't worthy. It's not even a punishment. It's more like this sort of almost a Nazi position, right? Of just getting rid of the rabble in the sense, right? Obviously not the same type of people that we would be eliminating, but um, I I think, yeah, I now consider it acceptable, like somebody who's committed a lot of crime and stuff, a lot of like severe crime, for example. I think yeah, and also precisely to prevent more crime from happening in the future. So, um, but again, you're kind of why are you focusing so much on this vegan stuff? And it's like, Sam, why don't you debate me? Like, why don't you come on the voice chat? Like, why? You know, I can debate you, but like, I just don't really. I'm not afraid of debating anyone. I can debate anyone, but you people are apparently afraid. So, uh, you shouldn't be.
I'm gonna eat a big ribeye for lunch today. I'm ESL and I don't study philosophy, I'm not even vegan.
Okay.
I just think the arguments are very compelling.
Okay, so you're not even vegan. So I keep forgetting I keep forgetting who said what about veganism because like yeah. Um, but how about what do you think about my argument about the animals in the wild? I mean, you saw that, right? Maybe I can get rid of this for now. Oh, wait, what happened here? Is there anybody in the general voice? Wait, where's? No, I'm the only one there. What? Come on, just like somebody, come on the voice channel. It's a pain to just, it's a pain to just talk with people who are just writing. I prefer Discord. The Discord is the best. Discord arguments are the best arguments. I mean, discussions, debates, whatever you want to call them. Um, Flat Earth Bill. Do you actually? Are you actually Flat Earth or Flat Earth Bill? or not? Let's see. Let's.
Yes.
Oh my god. See that's
I
just
support
weird.
flat Earth.
Wait, you support flat Earth, but that sounds like you consider it more like a moral question rather than a factual question. Do you believe in flat Earth? Perhaps is a better like. And even I'm not sure. Like I think you might be joking, but I'm not.
I
I'm
believe
not.
it and I support the movement and its adjacent movements.
Okay. I'm not even sure I want to know what the adjacent movements are. But why why do you believe like don't you do we I'm not even sure I could bother going into this. You understand that astronomical like phenomena don't make sense with a flat earth? Like think about it this way. How is it possible for it to be night in one place and day in another if it's a flat earth? I mean, imagine you've got a plane, like this is my hand here. If you've got some sort of thing, right, it's always going to be either above the plane, so visible from everywhere on the plane, or below it and invisible everywhere on the plane. So it's always going to be either day or night everywhere at the same time, right? That in itself is sufficient to completely debunk the flat Earth movement.
I believe astronomy is simply a projection. Like the moon is a projection to the sky.
Okay, but even if it's a projection, like how are you gonna have like if there's a lamp or something, right? The sun could be a lamp, but it's still gonna be either above you or below. Like it's not possible for it to be like unless you're introducing like astronomical phenomena, and they do happen to an extent. We actually know this happens, right? Where the light gets slightly curved, like gets slightly, and this is why you actually see the sunrise before you would if light was traveling in a straight line. So like we know that that happens. So maybe presumably you're like imagining some sort of scenario like that where like somehow the light gets severely warped in some way that means that you but like I mean that's pretty it would still be pretty wild, if you had something that was above the plane but then it still looked like it was just complete night. Um and but then in some places, and it still looked like it was day in other places, and not only that, but just at completely like wildly different positions and stuff. Um, it doesn't fit. Like it doesn't. You'd have to have some really wacky sort of light bending and stuff. Um, and there doesn't appear to. And if there was wacky light bending stuff like that, then like you wouldn't have the stars, right? They wouldn't have the same like distance between themselves. You'd see this like the warping of stars depending on of the constellations, right? And you don't see that. There isn't this warping of constellations. Precisely, you see a warping of the sunrise precisely due to the phenomena I said. It gets kind of squished. I've seen this. I watched like a moonrise, and the moon was just a few days ago, a full moonrise, and it was squished because of that phenomenon. Um, so again, if you just have an understanding of like astronomy, like basic principles of astronomy and geometry, you'll realize that it just
I
can't
hold the
work.
view that our world is structured as a flat plane, encircled by a dome-like boundary.
Again, if you actually think about the astronomy, if you learned a bit about astronomy, you would understand that that just does not make sense at all. Um, it's not possible, right? Because again, you like it fit like what we see fits exactly the sphere model, and it just completely does not fit the plane model, right? Um, it just fits perfectly, right? You descend in longitude, and the sun will be higher and lower and stuff.
I
It
believe that our plane is capped by a dome-like structure. As to what exists beyond that barrier, it remains an enigma to me.
no shit. Um, why do you believe this? I mean, you realize that it makes no sense. I mean, you can imagine that, but again, it doesn't make sense. Don't you understand what I mean? Like, again, imagine this. You've got a plane, right? Something is either going to be always above it or below it. This is just geometry. This is the thing that the flat earthers are just people who don't understand geometry, like basic geometry. Something is either going to always be above or below a plane, no matter where you are on the plane. You see what I mean? And yet we know that at the same time, some people have night and some people have day, which means that the sun is above the plane for some people and below for other people, right? And of course, we have the same for the moon. We have the same for the stars. We like it's that I mean, obviously, if you didn't travel and you just stayed in the same place, then you can't do that, and then it's not obvious. Okay, like if you just always stayed in the same place on Earth and you had no knowledge of any other places on Earth, then you can't know, right? Then you just have a single data point.
Your question
Um,
is rooted in the common misconceptions perpetuated by the heliocentric model. On the flat Earth model, the sun operates more like a spotlight, moving in a circular path above the plane. It only illuminates a specific portion of the Earth at any given time. This focused illumination creates the day-night cycle in different regions. So, while one area experiences daylight under the sun's direct path, areas further away from this path fall into shadow or night.
yeah, I know very well that that is what the flat Earth model is like, and basically a spotlight would not look like that. Okay, a spotlight you just see it going further and further away, but it wouldn't set. You wouldn't have the sunset phenomenon, right? So it still doesn't work. And again with the stars and stuff, like the whole way that they move around, you can see it works like a sphere, and it just uh, like sure, so it could be a sphere around the plane, but because of the fact that we know that there's precisely it's because we know of different locations at once, right? It's because we know of how things appear in different locations at the same time that we know that that is not possible, right?
The
Again,
term
if
spotlight might have been a simplification. What's essential to grasp is that, in the flat Earth model, the sun is not as large or as distant as mainstream science suggests. It's smaller and closer to the plane of the Earth.
again, it does not make
This
sense.
proximity and size allow it to cast light over a specific portion of the Earth while leaving other parts in darkness.
It doesn't make sense. You wouldn't see it set. You just see it go further away. Okay, it doesn't. It still doesn't make sense. And like, there's so much stuff that doesn't make sense. You see. I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff too, right? So like just the circumnavigation stuff, even the experiments of like seeing the original thing of the ship and you see just the mast at first. But you could say maybe that's an optical illusion or something whatnot. But I mean, how to explain circumnavigation, how to explain around the world travel. Like, I mean, I've done it myself. Like I've like just take a plane and so okay, so you say that the planes are actually flying around in a circle. I know that that's the flat Earth.
That's a commonly raised concern. The perceived sunset in the flat Earth model can be attributed to a combination of factors such as perspective, atmospheric refraction, and the sun's path moving away from the observer. The easiest way to destroy the flat Earth bullshit is by explaining that we didn't have the technology to fake the moon landing in 1969.
Yeah, but how do we know? Like, how can we prove that we didn't have the technology? I mean, then you can say that that's just. I don't think that that's the easiest way to destroy it. I prefer more these sort of these sort of geometric proofs. Um, like you could say maybe there's some secret NASA
How
technology.
did we land on the moon in 1969 and can't do it in 2023?
Well, it's not that you can't; it's just that they don't want to because it costs a lot. Right? That's not the same thing. But yeah, I don't think there's much point. Like you say, like if it moved away, you'd also see the sun get smaller, right? If it was so close and then it moves away and it moves away so far away,
There's just not much to do on the moon, bruh.
if the sun moved so far away that it got dark, you'd see it getting smaller and smaller until it was just a little star, right? But instead, no, it doesn't do that at all. So again, it just like there's no reason at all to believe in the flat Earth. Like there's no indication whatsoever that that is should
Someone
be the
linked your
case.
stream in a progressive NPC stream and I clicked on it.
Hello, Veldrain. Um, what progressive NPC? What's NPCs like non-player character? Is that is that what you mean by NPC, or is it like some other meaning? Um, and what like and that's sort of seen as a pejorative. So why would you even go onto an NPC stream? I mean, if you think the person's an NPC, presumably you wouldn't go on
Many
that person's
flat
stream.
earthers believe that the sun does appear smaller when it's near the horizon, but this effect is mitigated by atmospheric magnification.
Yeah, but again, why? Like there's no reason to believe this. Like you can just invent all these things, these new reasons for these things happening, but why would you? And of course I know why you do, right? Because flat earthism is actually based in religion. It's based on the what I've heard referred to as the hamburger model, right? Is that religion basically stops making like the typical what I call Yahwehist religion, the religion of Yahweh, like
Non-player
Christianity and
character in the political jargon sense means they all think and say the same exact thing with absolutely no variations.
yeah, I know that. I know that that's what it means. I'm surprised that you'd bother seeing such a stream if you if that's what you thought that the person was. Like if you think somebody's an NPC, like why do you go to that person's stream? Um, but like it's basically right. There's idea you go up to heaven, right? You go down to hell. So obviously, if the Earth is round, well, that doesn't really work anymore. So that's basically the entire reason that the flat Earth thing exists, right? I mean that's essentially what the what it's all about. Um, but the thing is that, of course, religion, the Yahwehist religion itself is, of course, absurd in many ways. So I mean, then it's just a sort of double
Oh
absurdity.
no, the
It's one
purpose of
absurdity
watching
to
is to annoy the streamer without breaking Twitch TOS.
um yeah, okay. But what? But then I mean, how does that annoy the streamer? Because I mean, I don't see how like the streamer isn't gonna know you are watching, right? And if you were commenting, then if that annoys the streamer, the commenter can just ban you, or the streamer can just ban you. So I don't really see the purpose of that. But yeah, I mean that's the whole flat Earth movement. It's related to it's related to all these other crazy things. It's related to basically the craziness that pretty much now has become like the embodiment of like the Republican Party, which I mean just shows you how crazy it's become. So you have this link of one, this flat Earth is linked to like,
Not all
this,
political streamers ban people, but most do.
yeah. So and like this
Are you
worship
still a
of your,
radical leftists?
I've never been a radical leftist. I'm very much anti-leftism. Um, it's worship of like an imaginary super dictator, right? And this is also linked to like bizarre rules about how you should behave and stuff, and like all sorts of bizarre contradictions, like supposedly supporting freedom, right? And at the same time saying
I'm
that you have to dress in this
anti-communist,
particular
pro-war
way.
neoliberal.
Is that no? But I think Senator Kira is joking here. I think Senator Kira actually is the opposite of that and is actually like a sort of communist adjacent, because like people wouldn't usually describe themselves like in the first sentence as pro-war, right? Um,
Not
I mean,
joking.
not joking. Really, you're not joking. Are you actually pro-war? I mean, that's weird that you're actually
I
pro-war.
care about defending Western values.
Okay, well, I'm sort of like that, but I mean, I'm even more like, I mean, I'm pro-universal state. I have my own things. I'm not. I'm not even Western
Someone
values.
typing in Discord.
I have my own. I have my own.
Discord.
I have my own thing. King Avi with its proposition. Debate him. How am I supposed to? How am I supposed to do that? How do I ping? Oh man, this is. I'm tired already. How do I do that? Kira, how do I do this? Ping Avi with a proposition, debate him. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you think that like opposing the sort of craziness
Right
of the
at
current
Abibitnd.
at Avi bit to MD, so do I just write that in the general? You just go in general here, and I write. Is that what I do? I write in general here, and I just go right at what you wrote, and then I just write something. Is that what pinging means?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Eating
I'll do
meat
that.
increases breeding of animals, which increases life
Oh
and
wait,
utility of animals. Thus, being carnivore benefits animals the
Avi
most.
bit Tim. B. Okay. Hi, Avi. As per my uh initial, what is this? Is it a post? Is it a comment? Is it a writing from an initial writing? Do you want to debate me? Okay, is that like, do you agree? Is that sort of a good thing to write, Kira?
Avi and Nathan debate would actually go crazy.
Do you was
I'm
that
excited.
is that a good thing I wrote? Was that like sort of, is that so full DQ it, just
Yeah,
in an, okay, so I'm gonna send it. Okay. Yeah, like I've been saying, it actually can decrease life, right? Because eating meat actually tends to destroy the environment, which means you have less animals in the wild, and that is a good thing because in the wild they tend to suffer a lot, and so it can actually be seen as a good thing from that perspective. Um, but if that weren't the case, if there wasn't any effect on the wild, then you could say that if their lives are net enjoyable, if there's more like positive than negative enjoyment, then meat eating would in fact be good for them in the sense that, yeah, it brings them into existence. So that's also a good argument. So thank you for bringing that up as well. It's already sort of mentioned it, but yeah, that sort of brings it again in the spotlight. Um, so Kira, you're seriously pro. You're like, basically you're calling people immoral for like being meat eaters, but you're also pro war. Like I mean I can understand because like I just is sort of pretty unusual because I get the feeling that like typically vegans
at
tend to be
Senator
like
Kira's, so you are a
anti-war.
Bidenist.
I like I am pro-war, like sort of, like kind of reluctantly, because I'm not super. If the West was even more aligned with my values, then I would be more so. I mean, I'm an expansionist. I'm an expansionist by any
Do
means
you support the Ukraine war?
of the universal state, which is my own thing, which is, of course, and the West is more similar than other cultures to my own universal state, right? So in that sense, I am supportive of the West in a conflict. If I have to choose sides, I'm going to choose the West. I'm definitely not one of these people to say that the West is responsible for all the ills of everything, and that, I'm definitely not going to defend like Russia and China against the West, and I am going to defend the West against Russia and China. And if I have to pick sides in Ukraine, I'm going to pick Ukraine against Russia. Um, but I'm still not super crazy about them. There is a lot of hypocrisy. That they're still too much like the other cultures. So, um, like, yeah, that's my position on them.
I don't
on
think
that.
there has been an unjustified US intervention since 1991.
Yeah, but I mean that's pretty recent, right? I honestly, you don't think like Iraq War two, like Gulf War, like if you consider that the second, or if you just call it Iraq War, like in 2003, like they invented stuff, right? So you could maybe say it's justified to remove Saddam, but then it just became a mess anyway. Um, I'm not exactly opposed to it, but like, and especially that they lied about they thought that they had weapons of mass destruction and stuff. I mean, it certainly
We would
wasn't
have had the
great.
right to go in even without the WMD bullshit.
Well, the right, that's sort of weird to put in perspective, right? Like, was it the right thing to do or not? Like, I, I don't really.
The moral right.
Yeah, presumably you're seeing it from the perspective of the moral right. But I mean, again, from the perspective of the moral right, like I'm an expansionist of the universal state at the expense of all other states, including the United States. I definitely want to go in and do to the United States what the United States did to Iraq. I mean, of course, also do that to Iraq and to every other country. Um, and of course even more because I would actually take it over, unlike the United States, who just replaced it with what a regime that they thought would be more and which was more favorable to the United States. Um, I mean, I acknowledge that the United States is actually not all that like hard imperialist, in as much as it doesn't actually directly take over all that much. It hasn't done that in a long time of
Some
actually
woman
taking
chatting
over
on Discord.
territory.
I don't
Whereas
support the war in Ukraine. It's better to have Russia just take Ukraine than support the senseless killing.
Yeah, but the problem is that then that tells Russia that it can just keep doing that, and then it can, if you just let it do that, then it'll just take over every country. Um, and like, is that really what you want? um,
Russia isn't going to touch a country that is part of NATO, it would stop at Ukraine.
ugh, yeah, I mean, probably, yes, probably. But like, how about all the other countries that aren't part of NATO? It could like go back into Central Asia and stuff. Like, do you want it to do that? Okay, so I see what you mean, Kira, about them being like super logical. Okay, Abby, I affirm the proposition: eating meat likely generates more net utility, enjoyment, minus suffering, um, than not doing so. Comma, owing to reduction of suffering of animals in the wild. Okay, I've done that.
You fucked up the ping.
What do you mean? You
It's
said it was
fine
okay.
though.
How did I fuck up the ping? Why, it's supposed to be, oh, it's supposed to be at the beginning. Oh, should I do it again? At Avi?
You can edit. Edit.
Okay. Oh, I can edit? I can edit? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay, I can delete this now. Delete, 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 delete. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, you see, it's you can't just like waltz in and just have a debate right away. But at least they're being friendly for now. At least they're not just yelling at me. Like I mean, I've gone to other places where I said the same thing and they just like went bananas. Um, so I mean that's good. But yeah, I would like to see some other universal state expansions. This is also what's frustrating on my streaming is that nobody actually has gotten on board with my main policy agenda overall. Sadly, because all the people that would have been sort of most sympathetic to it seem to be like these what I call wookies, like because I don't like using the term woke because I don't like associating them with like being awake, and so it's all these sort of
Most
people
Twitch
that get
streamers are UST in it for the money and pandering to morons.
well, yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe not so much in. Do you mean just in general
Hello
or
fellow
like?
wokers.
Oh, Chad, hello, hello, wokers. Um, hello, Chad. um, uh,
Hello. Destiny has completely given up his intellectual integrity for optics.
okay, hello, first time chatter, some Chinese
At
stuff,
Senator
in
Kira, how
parentheses,
so?
LMA, like Chen 123. Um, Destiny has completely given up his intellectual integrity for optics. Also, yeah, that a good question. How has Destiny done that? I don't, I thought that Destiny had pretty much a lot of integrity, though. I don't look into these people that much, so I don't really know much about them, but, I've seen them a bit. Know their sort of basic positions. Like Destiny is a sort of like
Destiny used to be logical. Now he is a woke blue-haired feminist.
I mean, from what I've heard, like Destiny used to be like more lefty and now is more like centrist. And the blue haired thing is more like as a joke, like from what I've seen. But I don't know more than that. But my impression is that like it's more like as a joke to kind of trigger people to be blue haired and to like,
His
do that kind
arguments
of
are
stuff.
full of logical fallacies. That's why he ducks Dr. Avi and ask yourself.
Don't you think it's maybe that Destiny is just more famous? Oh no, because Destiny debates anyone who's even just slightly famous. So I guess presumably Avi and Ask Yourself would be famous enough. Huh.
Don't get me wrong, I
Yeah.
prefer Destiny to Hassan.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Destiny seems to be like a lot more
Destiny
logical
used
and
to
stuff
debate
than
them all
Hassan.
the time.
I hear another little Discord sound. Um, has there been anything? No.
What are
Yeah.
you taking about?
What are we talking? Well, it's sort of right now. It's sort of a bit of a not exactly white short. We're not talking about anything specifically. Or the main thing is that we're sort of hoping to get a debate about veganism, which is prompted by Senator Kira here in blue, um, who apparently finds veganism very compelling and therefore wants me to debate veganism with an apparently an intellectual heavyweight called Avi, um, on which is on this Discord channel that I've gone on to. So that's what we're trying to. That's what we're waiting for now. If anybody on my stream wants to debate, of course that would be nice. Um, it's probably more fun than to just discuss with just like these little sentences that you write. Um, but like I know people are reluctant to do this, so yeah.
At
So we're
Senator
just
Kira,
waiting.
Avi Bitterman lost a debate with Bartholomew K. There's no proof that vegan diets are healthy.
Yeah, I don't even bother looking into it. I would agree that overall it doesn't seem to be healthier. But see, that's the problem. Is that the problem? Like, if you, I don't want to get into that because there are tons of people. Like, there will have been tons of studies on it. I haven't researched them. And so obviously, if I sort of start trying to get into there, obviously I can't do anything there because I don't know these studies, so I can't say anything about that. I'm just gonna go from my personal experience that it doesn't really seem to be particularly good, and
Humans are evolved to eat meat.
and the fact that, well, yeah, that's one good argument. Humans are evolved to eat meat, and um, like meat is actually, it has a lot of nutrients that are a lot more easily assimilable than plants. Um, so it makes sense. Like logically, it would make sense that eating meat would actually be healthier. Um, but that's basically as far as I'll go. I'm not gonna go beyond that. I'm not gonna start getting into studies because then you just get bogged down, and I just don't have an interest. Because then that would require me to learn all these studies and stuff. I don't want to, and I presumably they've got fallacies and stuff, and there's going to be all loads of confounding factors because how do you do a randomized trial, right? People aren't going to be willing to go like in a randomized trial and be
Why
assigned to
do
be
vegans make
like a
all their
vegan
food
for
mimic meat foods? Vegan burger.
like imagine if you're in a randomized controlled trial and like you're in a vegan arm of the trial and you're like, okay, now for 30 years you're going to be a vegan. I'm going to be like, heck no, I'm not like. And either you want to be a vegan and then you're going to be heck no if they assign you to the meat eating trial, or you don't want to be a vegan and you're going to be heck no to the vegan thing. So um, you say scroll down in text channels and look at the vegan medical lunatics section. They have all their sources listed. They cover all these topics. Yeah, okay, but they have all these sources listed. Okay, I don't want to even if they listed the sources, I don't want to have to read the source. You know, it's too much of a hassle. I'm not interested in that.
All the longest living cultures in the world consume some meat. Observational studies prove this. I understand.
Yeah,
I think you should just stick to the philosophical side.
yeah. Thank you, Sam. That's my point. I'm sticking to philosophy. I mean, it's not just philosophical, but just these basic arguments. I'm not gonna get bogged down into
Why
the.
Buddhists do not eat meat?
Yeah, but that's from an ethical perspective, right? Of Buddhists not eating meat. Um, and that I'm not even sure if that's a strict thing. That seems like it sort of depends on the sects and stuff of like this is the specific subgroups of Buddhism. Um, so I know like Jainism, right? That's like super vegetarian, super vegan. But again, it's based on the idea that you
If
like.
veganism is unethical, why do lions eat meat?
Well, I mean, lions have no choice, right? So I mean that you could, and
Someone cooking
that
you in
just is.
Discord.
Someone in this. All right. Do you believe that because of more land use of animal agriculture? Uh, look you.
Don't respond.
Wait, what? Wait, why don't respond?
Ask
Why?
them to join VC.
Oh, should I? Okay. No, I'll say yes, but I'll
Only
say
respond in VC.
yes. No, no, I'll still go yes. Do you want to join? I'm not gonna be obnoxious about it. Do you want to join VC? Voice chat? Okay. Yeah. I'm not just gonna be one of these. Yeah, I'm not gonna act obnoxiously and say I'm only gonna answer. Like I can just, it's a yes or
These
no
people
question.
literally have a rule about not ducking voice debates.
Okay. But again, I'm not gonna like force things. I'm gonna ask it. If they ask a yes or no question, I'm gonna answer the question. Yeah, because it's so simple. I just yes or no. I'm not gonna say like, I'm not gonna stay coy about it and say what did I say? Oh, is he? Oh, he's joined.
Hello,
He's
can you
joined.
hear me?
Yeah. Wait, I'm just on. Here we go. Okay, I was muted. Hi, do you hear me now?
I
Hi,
hear you.
do you
Yep,
hear me?
perfect.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Thanks for joining. I don't know if there's anything in particular you would like to debate. I'm actually doing it at the behest of one of my Twitch viewers. I'm actually live streaming on Twitch right now. So I don't really know about this particular Discord channel very much. So like forgive me if I don't really know what I'm doing here. Um, So
I'm not active here too, so
okay,
same
okay,
goes for
well,
me.
okay, well, good. So I don't know if there's anything in particular that you would like to discuss. I mean, that was my. I don't know if you read what I wrote before. I mean, that is you basically seem to have understood what I was saying, and I've seen people discuss this already. I think, yeah, I remember this person called Brian Tomasic. I don't know if you that rings any bells to you. Um,
No.
uh, yeah, okay, so I recall that. I think he's like a negative utilitarian or something. And I think there was an argument like that. Somebody, thank you for following a Chinese character person. Sorry, I'm just talking to my Twitch people. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so there's one interesting argument, but I'm not sure. I think it was even somebody else that brought up this argument. I don't remember who it was, but it was that basically animal agriculture uses up a lot more land. It uses up a lot more resources. It destroys the environment. It's bad for the environment. But here's the thing, and this was really I found this really striking because I hadn't really thought of this before I read this. Is that actually destroying the environment could be seen as a good thing because it means that there are less animals. And the thing is that we don't really see it that much, but in fact, animals suffer a lot. They suffer from so many things, right? They suffer from hunger and disease and predation and all those things.
Yeah.
And as a result, one might actually think that it might be better for them not to exist at all. And as a result, environmental destruction might actually be seen as a good thing, since there are less of these beings that suffer so much that
Oh.
it would be better for them to not exist. So that's all I'm saying, really. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I think I understand what you're saying, and I also know about this argument,
Uh-huh.
and I think it was also discussed before in this Discord. I
Okay.
think also Avi made a point on this, and he brought up a study where he showed that more land use in terms of croplands um, results in lower density of animals.
Yeah. So that would support that.
Wait, lower density? No, it results actually in a higher density. That was the point, yeah.
That was the point. It results in a higher density.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, more land use results in a higher density of mammals, especially. And Avi brought up like a big study where they compared like wild land to cropland, and they saw okay, in cropland there are less species, but still there are more animals.
Okay, so that's
So
interesting.
it's not intuitive. It goes against our intuition.
Yeah.
But actually, that was the result of the study, so it would be the opposite of what you stated.
Well, sure. I mean, but I would very much doubt that that study is would apply to all situations. I would imagine, in certain circumstances, I
Yeah.
would agree. For instance, I know that so you're talking about mammals. So yes, I would agree that there tends to be, for instance, lots of small rodents. They tend to like cropland more than forest, for instance. So I would definitely agree that would be unsurprising for rodent density to increase in cropland. Um, and so then the question is, it can depend a lot on how intensive your agriculture. Like, I think if you're going more like on a traditional organic kind of farmland, then yes, you're gonna probably get quite a lot of animal density. But if it's like very intensive, very like with lots of pesticides and monoculture and stuff, you're definitely going to get a lot less insects. And then I don't know how much rodents are going to be impacted. That is like they seem to be more resistant to like pesticides and stuff. But then presumably, yeah, I don't know that there might still be more rodents, but of course we should take into account insects too. And in fact, so
Is an
okay,
animal
rodents.
more valuable than an insect?
So you could
Yeah.
say that rodents are more, they've got bigger brains and stuff, so they have the capacities to suffer more. So obviously, like one rodent is more important than one insect, but then there's a lot more insects than rodents, right? Because they're so much smaller.
Yeah, but
So, yeah.
but again, then so you have the burden of proof to show that there are actually less insects in the cropland. So I think
Yes,
it's
of
not
course.
really clear that it's the case. because
That
if you
yeah.
think about the mammals, so the density increases, and so that's also was not intuitive for me, but
Yeah.
it's actually shown that on average the mammal density goes up for croplands. So yeah, but we don't know about insects or birds. But I think until we have any evidence, we should be agnostic on that.
Yeah, well, I am agnostic on that. Again, I'm just bringing this up as an argument. I'm not saying that it is
Okay,
like
so
that.
you're
And
not really convinced of the proposition you stated.
I'm convinced of the logic of it, right? I'm not convinced that it actually is a fact. You see what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, but as
Yeah.
you if you're agnostic on insects and agnostic on birds, but you have evidence for mammals, then yeah, overall the evidence would go in the other direction, as you stated in your proposition.
Okay, well that's indeed a good point. Again, I haven't seen the study, so I would have to see that
Yeah,
first.
I think I would have to look for it. I think it has an own channel in this Discord, this topic, in this study.
Uh-huh.
But I would have
I mean,
to look for
sure.
it.
Sure. I mean, the thing is, I'm not even sure if that's relevant, right? Because again, like I'm saying, if we just have data on mammals, but there's so many more insects, then I would say that overall we still just don't really know how things turn out overall.
But we
And
don't know if. But we don't know about the number of the insects, so we should be agnostic on that.
but as
We are
yeah, but
agnostic
so
on insects.
like yeah, but my point is that then we should be agnostic on the issue overall. We shouldn't just be looking into mammals. I mean, we shouldn't just consider that we have the data on mammals, because what if, for instance, it actually is what we don't know yet, but what if it turns out to be the case that there are less insects? Then we would have made a mistake by just following the rodent data, right? So I think
I understand that,
yeah.
but I think until we don't have any evidence for the other parts, we have to focus on the mammals where we have the evidence. And until we don't have any evidence for insects and stuff like that, we should tend in the direction and say that more croplands leads results in more animals.
Firstly, again, I would expect that study. I mean, because there's so many different types of croplands and there's so many different types of wild habitats, that I would expect it to be very different, depending on the specific wild
Let's see this
habitat and the
research.
specific cropland, right? I think that really would depend a lot on that, and I think it would be difficult for a study to take into account all these different types, right? So I would expect that study to only take into a few types and not others, and so then you'd have to look at it by each individual type, and then of course a more general point is that, again, like I say, because we don't know about the data for animals overall, I think we just shouldn't have any kind of prescriptions, like of ideas of what should be done about the issue in one way or the other. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you should eat meat or you shouldn't eat meat. I'm saying that at this point we just don't know either way. That's my position.
Yeah, I'm just looking for this study right now. Maybe I will find it.
But again, yeah. So do you see the logic in that, though? In as much as precisely, because if it turns out that we think about it this way, if it turns out that actually there are more insects in like wilderness than in cropland, and therefore by increasing cropland we decrease the amount of insects. If it turns out to be the case later on, because we have more studies, presuming that the rodent study is accurate, then if
he
we
knows
just
what
followed,
NTT is.
if we just
Ditio, you have a response to NTT?
If we just followed the rodent data, then we actually might have ended up following the wrong path. We might have actually ended up causing more suffering by actually taking the wrong decision by saying we should have we should have less cropland, right? And so that's why I'm saying that ultimately there isn't a clear way, one way or the other, that there isn't a clear right policy to choose. That's all I'm saying. So that's why I'm
Yeah,
just
but
agnostic in general.
as I stated, for the evidence that we do have, it's just the direction that I mentioned.
Yeah, but my point is that that evidence is not actually sufficient to constitute a direction for policy. I don't think that there's any policy implication from the rodent study.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah. So you,
yeah.
But so I think you also only talk about utility and utilitarianism, but not really about the deontology part.
Well, because I don't care about deontology. I'm just a utilitarian, so that's to me that comes to the same. Like for me, doing something actively or passively is the same. Like if you let animals be killed by other animals in the wild, to me, it's the same as if you kill the animal actively. To me, like it makes no difference. So that's why I don't care about the deontology. Sure, from the deontology perspective, then that's something different. But I just don't consider that a valid perspective. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I think there's a fundamental difference. For example,
yeah.
in the human context, if you kill a human accidentally with a car, for example, or you go out.
No, but that's very different because that's
kill a human
accidentally.
intentionally.
No, it's not. It's
Yeah,
not
but
accidentally or it's passive or active. It's like if you see somebody drowning and you don't save the person drowning versus
but
you actively kill someone. To me, that's the same. If you see somebody drowning
yeah,
and
but
you can save it without risk, and you can save that person without risk to yourself. Obviously, if you're like a very good swimmer, or if it's like just a little kid, it's very easy to take the kid. You know, to me, that is killing a kid just the same as if you just go and shoot the kid. To me, there's no difference, and I think it's very weird
But-
to consider it acceptable to just let a kid drown, because that is the
but
deontologist
I
position.
yeah, I think, but if you differentiate between an accident and intentional killing, I think then you're not real utilitarian.
What do you mean?
Make
No, because
if
you're not going to assign
accident.
blame. Like obviously,
Sorry?
I'm talking about in terms of blame and in terms of then whether we should assign punishment or not. Like yes, obviously, if it's accidental, the outcome will be the same, right? So you're right about that.
Yeah.
Like I do think that the outcome is the same. So ultimately, it's equally bad if it's accidental or not. So it's true. All I mean is that we shouldn't punish someone because there's no point, because that's not going to help prevent future accidents like that from happening. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think we already discussed the point that you wanted to debate, and yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've kind of covered that. I don't know if I mean, if I've pretty much satisfied with that. We haven't discussed much, but I'm not sure there's much more to discuss at this point. I'm not sure if you want to discuss more, or if somebody in my chat here wants me to discuss something
I know.
more.
I was just interested in the proposition that you stated, because at one point I also thought about that. I'd also talked to Avi, and then he showed me the study, and
Repen to NTT.
now I lean more towards
Force your
thinking
interlocutor
that
to share the research.
more croplands yields to more animals and more animal suffering. There's a tendency.
Wait, what is NTT? The people on my chat are talking about NTT. Do you know what that is, or do they? Can you tell me what NTT is?
Yeah, name the trait.
Oh yeah, name the trait. Why do they want me to talk about that? Can you understand why they want me to?
Yeah, maybe they want to debate veganism in general.
Yeah, I'm not
maybe
sure.
Maybe they just want to test your position on veganism, if you already have a vegan position or not.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
my position is
another
based on
topic.
utility.
That's not
My position is
that's
based on
not really
utility.
the topic.
I mean, it is the topic, because I mean, for me, the topic is basically if it increases utility or not. Here's somebody joining us. Oughtn't of. Like to me.
Yeah. Also, I found the study right now. I can send it.
Okay.
In general, if you want.
Yeah, sure. But again, I probably, it's sort of hard to. Okay, yeah, I see it. It's sort of hard for me to read the whole study just like this while we're
Share that in
chatting.
Twitch chat,
of
streamer.
course, but you can.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting for you for later, and then you can read it later on or something.
https://onlinelibrary.wiley.com/dois.com/ecog.05116
Sorry.
Thanks. LUL.
Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, no. So for me, veganism, whether or not veganism is something that I support, is it's based on precisely whether or not it generates more or less utility. So that's why, to me, that question is very much linked to whether or not I support veganism. So for me, it is actually the same topic.
I think name the trait. You don't talk about utilitarianism and deontology. More a test of if your position is consistent or not.
Yeah, so again, I haven't really researched this much. I just sort of think about these things sort of in my mind. But so if I understood correctly, they say, is there a trait in humans that makes you unwilling to hurt humans? And then you ask yourself, is that trait also present in animals? And which would then mean that you should also not want to hurt animals, right? So that's what the stream on Twitch, what the chat told me. Does that sound correct to you? No, it doesn't sound correct to you?
Yeah, it sounds okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can think about it about replacing the animals in the animal agriculture that we breed. If you replace them with humans, then you can evaluate if you think it's ethical to slaughter the humans or not.
Okay, no, but that's kind of different. I mean, because to me that would just be the question: Are you actually breeding humans? I mean, is that, to me, that seems like a sort of a different question, isn't it?
But that would be one part of name the trait. Just asking
okay,
me this
yeah,
question, and then you can answer just with a yes or no answer.
Yeah. Okay. So let's think about this. I haven't thought of that before, so I'm just quickly thinking about it. Again, for me, it's just based on utility. So again, it really would depend on how if the humans were on average had more enjoyment than suffering, then and it just increased the number of humans, and we ignore the effect on the wild, then I would say okay. Because again, for me, that
so you would be okay with breeding and killing the humans if they have
I would be okay with it if there was no other alternative to having more humans and therefore more enjoyment. But of course, there is an alternative. So in practice, I don't support it, right? I would just say increase the number of humans, right? So yeah, I mean, if that was the only way to increase the number of humans, yes. But yeah. That's why, and because precisely, so the trait. So what I responded is that the specific trait that I care about is the capacity to experience pleasure and suffering, and so for me that is why I do care about animals, like other animals too, right? I do care about them, and I care about them, I mean, in proportion to the amount of enjoyment and suffering that they can have. So any animal that enjoys, that can have half as much enjoyment as a human, I care about half as much as a human. So I care about everyone based on that, and not really anything else. And as a result, I don't really even care about things like fundamental rights. I mean, I do care about rights, but only in as much as it brings enjoyment. I think that it brings us more enjoyment. It causes less suffering to not have rights. I think, if you could just like kill people randomly and stuff, that would cause a lot of suffering. So that's why I support rights. But it's instrumental. For me, rights are not a fundamental principle. They're instrumental for enjoyment, for utilitarianism.
So the initial question, I think it was, is it okay to replace the animals in the animal agriculture with humans? Just if they have like the same amount of enjoyment and suffering as the animals today in the animal agriculture, and would you say you would support it or not?
Okay. Oh yeah. So if they have the same amount,
it's just everything is the same. You just replace the animals with humans.
Well, if let me think. Yeah, I would say yes. I would say it's if it's really the same. The thing is, that's not the same, of course, right? So it's becoming
You would say
very
it's
very
okay,
theoretical.
or you would
It becomes
say
very
it's okay
theoretical
then?
at this point. I would say it's okay, but again, it becomes very theoretical because it's not the same. So I sort of feel that this is like a loaded not as much of a question, right, but a loaded scenario, loaded thought experiment, in as much
Yeah,
as
we just want
well,
to make a
yeah.
thought experiment and want to see. Okay, we change nothing. We only
Well, we don't change
replace the
nothing.
animals
Well,
with humans. Yeah, we only replace the animals with humans, and we can also say there will be the same amount of suffering and enjoyment
yeah,
for these
yes,
humans.
that's just the difference. Because in practice, there's not going to be the same amount, right? Because humans are going to be aware that they're going to be aware that they're being farmed and stuff, and that's going to cause them a lot more suffering. You see, so and
Yeah, but if there would be the same amount of suffering as today,
yeah,
so then
yeah,
you would
that's what. Of
support it.
course, I would support it, but again, it just becomes extremely. It becomes extremely
Extreme
detached from reality,
hypotheticals are good for
right?
testing the
Yeah, but
consistency of
to
your
me that
moral
just sounds
system.
insane. So yeah,
Well, you think it's insane?
yeah, like to breed humans and kill them and eat them. I think that
Well,
sounds really insane.
Well, yes, obviously, but again, if you're just thinking about
What's
it
up?
from the perspective of
Hello.
hello, hello,
Hey.
Avi
I'm
joined.
hello,
Avi.
Avi.
How are
Oh
you?
yeah, so you're Avi. So you're like the big Kahuna here, apparently.
Mute TDS.
I mean, well, some people say that. Sure. What is this
Holy
like? The
shit.
meat replacement for an argument in favor of animal agriculture? Replacing wildlife suffering.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
basically the
I've heard this. Yeah, it's not new to me, but go ahead. Sure.
okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe you don't even need it to be spelled out again. I think we've. I mean, I don't know if you want me to. It's just that
Yeah,
basically.
I just I just think the data we have on the matter of that replacements, not only does it not support that idea, but it actually goes in the other direction from the data I've seen. But sure, if you have if you have some studies I haven't read, because I think I've exhausted the the empirical side of that, but I could always be wrong. I could always miss the study, but
Yeah. Again, I mean,
go for it.
I'm not going to get into the study because for me, it's not about saying it's absolutely for sure the case. Like I've already explained here.
No. I
It's
think the data. Well, whether to be clear, it's not about whether absolutely for sure it's the case is the point of contention. I also agree it's not absolutely for sure the case. The issue I just have with look, so in principle, I would agree, right? Like I would agree that, yeah, if it was the case that all the rights, if we were to look at the rights violations, um, that were committed in the agriculture industry and the suffering obtained, but then we were to find out that actually, if you were to look at what animal agriculture is replacing in terms of natural wildlife, that the rights violations and suffering is far, or even somewhat, uh, even somewhat greater in intensity or in number in the wildlife that it would replace. Key point that it would replace. Then yeah, I mean, I just would agree. If the issue is just that based on the data I've seen that not only seems unlikely, it seems likely to be that the opposite is the case, and that just has to do with like just stocking densities mostly. Even in the case of like grass-fed beef and stuff.
yeah. Okay, but I mean, I am largely thinking about mostly insects, since insects are just far more, and other like arthropods and other small stuff,
Oh,
like
yeah.
invertebrates.
I was afraid you'd say that. Yeah. So I was afraid you'd say that. That
Yeah.
gets because I'm not even sure if insects are sentient at all. So I don't. It's so I'm
Okay, but then
agnostic if they even.
okay, but that's
Yeah, I'm
like
agnostic
also
if they even
yeah.
like factor into the equation. But
I
even
mean,
if they do,
I think
to whatever
that's also
extent they
pretty like a pretty extreme. I mean, not extreme, but like it may well
not
not be the case. I mean, it's, yeah, not extreme, but like you
No,
could be
no, no,
totally
I was
wrong,
about
right?
to say this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was about to. Yeah, so. But even if I was wrong about insects being sentient, what I don't think I'd be wrong is the degree of their sentience. And furthermore, I'm not even convinced that it's not even clear to me. In fact, there's some evidence that it goes in the other direction too. That for insects, the replacement would be greater. In fact, there's some reasons to believe that the opposite would be true. That you actually are creating more insects with animal agriculture, and again, that has to do with like things like stocking densities. Has to do with things like uh, feed relating to the feed that we use for cattle, like being available to insects in higher densities. And so there's reason to believe that there's countervailing reasons to believe that you might actually be creating more insects with animal agriculture than a replacement. But again, for all the principled questions, you have my position. Like if you could really pro- provided that the insects are sentient, provided that their sentience is like this non-trivial type of thing I wouldn't care about, provided that provided that the insects in question are not odd order predators, which is another issue.
Yeah.
And like if you dial all of those things in, then sure, but it is a big ask, especially telling that creatures that we already take to be far more sentient and we care about far more than insects already goes in the other direction. It's not clear with the case of insects that we even have reason to believe that it goes in the direction of the replacement. So my issue with this whole argument, I've heard it many times. My issue with the whole thing is I don't have a principled issue with it. I think it needs work empirically.
Okay, so I'll just so I'm not a big study person because just I'm like a pretty stupid person generally, so I just like can't be bothered reading much. I'll just go from
You're not stupid. I don't think you're stupid. At least you haven't given me any reason to believe that. Do you think
okay.
you're stupid?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of stupid in certain ways, but like I just mean stupid in as much as it's a strain for me to like read stuff, like that kind of stuff. So I just can't
Mhm.
really be bothered. I'm just gonna go on my own, largely anecdotal evidence of like
Yeah, but that's
places.
the problem.
But I know, but
Does
it's not just anecdotal. It's like it's stuff that people, I mean, stuff that I've been reading, but it's just not a formal like study. But like,
Well, the issue
okay,
is, yeah, but the
go.
issue with that is that we already have formal studies that we could make strong inferences for this on the table, and the formal studies of the beings that we really are confident have rich experience and are sentience go in the other direction. And so, if you're gonna want to shift my view, if to whatever degree you care about shifting someone like my view or someone like someone's view who just really cares about if uh, the conditions that ought be met for this argument to go through actually are met. I don't think that's the sort of thing. I mean, I hate to tell you that you might have to actually read some studies, but you really might actually have to read some studies.
Yeah. I mean, of course, obviously, I'm just gonna sort of go base myself on the general concept of insect populations being clearly lower in intensive farmland as opposed to either non-intensive farmland or natural land. Um, like there probably are some studies in on that topic. I don't know if you know of any. Like I
So
could
to
just do
be
a
clear
Google
about
search.
this, so yeah, so one thing one can look at is, okay, well, when we it's not just farmland to non-farmland specifically. To be clear, it's the farm it's the farmland it's the farmland in question, which versus the type of land that farmland tends to replace.
Exactly.
So it's not any old. Yeah, it's not any. Yeah. So the issue. I mean, it's kind of a catch 22 because um if you look at this type of replacement, the farmland replacement, um the farmland that will replace a lot is the type of like grass-fed stuff, just because it takes up more land. Um, but when you look at the that type of land compared to grassland, which is typically what is being replaced. There are some instances of like, you know, I'm not saying it's only grassland. I'm just saying it's majority grassland. There are some instances of like forest and stuff, but those are not the main type of land replaced by animal agriculture.
Mhm.
I'm not clear that just wild grassland versus like grassland that's we add alfalfa, we add certain grains, we add anything like that. I certainly don't have any intuition pumps that that's going to be resulting in higher one way or another. And if anything, I have it in the other direction. But if there's data on, I'd like to see it. Specifically with the type of land that it replaces.
Sure. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have the data. It's just really based on my own. I mean, it seems kind of logical. So yeah, I'm imagining on the land that it replaces. So typically, I would imagine the land. So that I'm going on these assumptions, right? That the land that it replaces is typically going to be natural type land, which is either going to be like forest or grassland, depending like or desert, or depending on the amount of precipitation, mostly and
Usually
stuff.
grass. I mean, usually
You
grassland. That's the.
that really depends on the area. If you're thinking about it like
No, I
from.
understand.
Oh wait. Oh sorry. Yeah. Do you hear me? Am I muted? Am I muted? Crap. What happened? Am I muted?
Targeted which land is most being replaced. It's the grasslands. I mean, some of which are being protected, some of which are starting to be like, oh, we need to not allow this to happen. There's certain legislation that's being passed, so they're making certain grasslands into parks to prevent it. But yeah, I mean that's the type of land that if we're talking about the animal agriculture replacing that typically replaces non-trivial amounts of what it's really the grasslands that are threatened. Sometimes rainforests, but or non-rainforest forests, but yeah, I mean the majority of the land is going to come from that. But anyway, I mean, look, I just question how productive listening to the intuition pump here is going to be, given we don't share the same intuition, and when that typically happens, what I ask for is some data.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have the data. I did a quick Google search to look for any studies on that. I couldn't find it. Again, I'll just point out that the intuition. I mean, it should. I don't know. I'll just appeal once again to like maybe just the other people here that like a natural grassland or natural forest to me seems like it should have a lot more insects than like an intensive monoculture that is covered in pesticides.
But that's not a shared intuition. I understand why it might be intuitive to some, like at first, but upon investigation, it's not clear to me that that's the case. And I think a lot of that has to do with a mismatch. I think that's happening in perception of density of wild animals that are in the wild versus their actual density. I think people like picture even a forest. I think people forests are probably a little bit closer to people's perception, I suspect. But I think the majority of the land grasslands, like people think that it's just like, wow, this just must be teeming with all these insects everywhere. And
why am I not hearing anything?
like monocropped area for cattle, which by the way, that's also not really much of what we're talking about, because if you have monocropped areas of for cattle, that's not the type of animal agriculture that's going to replace a lot of land from nature. That's actually the model that's less replacing. The model that's more replacing is grass-fed, grass-finished cattle. But the problem there is that that's not really the monocropped model with just clear swaths of land with the pesticide. So I'm not, and even with the monocrop pesticides, like there's that might just make the problem way worse. It might just, the grains, the presence of grains there might draw a whole bunch of insects to it and just to die in the pesticides. So I think a lot of what. So look, I don't think what's going to be productive for you in furthering this argument at this point is the conceptual analysis. I think I agree in principle if all the empirics are met. It's really just a question of can one show the empirics are met, or at least more likely than the opposite, because based on everything I've seen, it's at minimum not clear, but but my credence based on the actual data I've seen is just likely in the direction of this actually makes the replaces in the direction we don't want.
Sure.
So I think
is there? Could I just interject something? I'm not sure. Maybe if there's something, I'm not sure if this is well understood or not. So I'd just like to bring it up. I mean, I'm certainly when I'm talking about animals versus plants, like it's obviously not just replacing a plant cropland with an animal pasture or something like that. It's the fact that to create like a certain amount of energy, like food energy from meat, you need a much wider surface area than you do for vegetables. Yeah, so you know that, right? Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, no, I understand that. The point I was just making there was that that is really maximized. What really maximizes that replacement is not a monocropping system. It's not a grain finished system.
Agreed.
If you're talking about, and to whatever degree it is going to be more reliant on grain feds, it's just going to replace less nature than it would have otherwise if it was not that. If it was more pasture.
But it still replaces a lot more nature than if you were just in vegetables, or vegetables, like grains, or like you see what I like.
Wait.
No, what I mean is like if people are getting like a certain amount of their daily food energy intake from meat instead of grain.
Oh, sure, yeah, I agree. Look, I agree. There's going to be some agricultural replacement that's greater if you have monocrop to animal versus just crop. I agree with that.
Okay.
How much of that? How much of that is going to be the case? I'm not. I'm not exactly sure. I just know that it really to get real results, it just wildly blows up. And the reason that I'm mentioning this is because if it's once you're at the point where it's like, okay, well, we're not even sure how much more exactly. It's not to the point where it's like, okay, well, we have this really huge exponential problem which is the grass-fed, grass-finished model. Then it's even more so the case that the data we already have on mammalian replacement is unfavorable, and so you bringing non-mammalian considerations are just going to be a less weighty consideration if we're looking at a model that replaces less.
Yeah. Sure. I mean,
but either way, in either case, I think the conceptual analysis of the argument is really complete. I don't think there's really much more work that needs to be done there. I just think the real heavy work here is the empirics. That's where the deep dive needs to happen.
So again, sure, obviously until we have really solid data on this, I think it's going to be hard to really know. I do recall some people actually there being some discussions on this and based on some studies. So I just recall this name. I don't know if you know this person called Brian Tomasic. I remember that on his site.
I know his name. I'm very familiar with the work. His work. I do not agree with all. I think he's gotten quite a number of things wrong, but I like his initiative, and I at least like what I appreciate about Brian. And I do remember, by the way, that I've looked at some of the things that Brian's written about sentience quotients of insects, and he used certain specific insects, and he I remember I took very strong issue with a number of the things there about this topic specifically.
Yeah, so I'm
So
sort of
I can
largely
actually
basing myself
pull
on
those up
that.
if you want.
If you're sort of interested, I mean, I'm sort of basing myself on the kind of reasoning there. So if you want to know where I'm coming from.
Yeah. No, that's fine. No, but I'm talking about like Brian's like empirical, like the things that Brian says to lend empirical support for that. I
Okay.
strongly contest, and I can go
Okay.
through that if you'd like.
Again,
So
I probably well, if you want to, sure. Yeah. So go ahead.
I think there was one point. I don't know if you read this. There was one where he like he uses like one species of insects and bases the sentience like quotient or whatever on that species like brain size or something.
Mm.
Does this ring any bells or?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, we have no idea, right? I mean, obviously, we have to just kind of. It's just going to be a
Yeah, I think he
huge
just got it
guesswork.
wong. I when I looked at when I
Oh,
looked at the
you
papers,
think you mean it's
it was,
actually wrong? You mean it's actually
yeah,
wrong?
it was
Okay.
it was like
Okay.
orders, like even for that species, it was like if you were to do it by brain, if you were to actually look at their brain size or the whatever metric he was trying to go for, sorry, because he made it like certain assumptions, and if you look at like if you were to actually get the data and you were to look at like what that quotient would be, it was like orders of magnitude off in like
Okay.
the other direction.
Okay. Are you sure? It might have been like based on like a logarithmic scale, in which case, like, it might have taken that into account.
No, even
No, it
it
wasn't.
wouldn't. It
Okay.
wouldn't. Whether it's gonna whether you put it on a log scale or not wouldn't change whether it's whether
Okay.
the estimates whether the data that's being relied on was off by orders of magnitude. But yeah, even if you had some model that made some type of quotient non-linear, which by the way I don't think that's what he did. I think he did assume linearity. But even if he didn't, I'm not sure why that would it would turn on much unless you like set something up in some weird way, which he didn't do. But yeah, no, I've looked. I'm familiar with Brian Tomasic. Again, nothing against the guy. I think he's doing great work. I do think he makes certain leaps and assumptions that are not warranted, and then when you actually do the investigation, you find out like, wow, this was like completely off. But
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
a lot of that is partially attributable to like him not being like super like an expert in the field. Like he's more of like a thinker type of philosophy type of person, which is
Sure.
fine, which is great actually. I appreciate that.
I would,
But
if you don't mind.
yeah,
I don't want to interrupt you. Sorry, but just because I'm thinking about it now, and otherwise I might forget. Just to address this argument about the brain size. I'd kind of like to point out maybe a counter argument, which is differences in brain size between
just as a quotient,
humans.
yeah,
Between humans,
it was
right?
a correlate.
Like,
Wait,
but
just to be clear about what the brain size is posed. Yeah, it's posed as a correlate. It's not being posed as like this entails that. And the only reason I'm doing brain size is the only reason I'm doing brain size is because I think that was the only available correlate that we can examine. It wasn't like I think I think it was neuron count, and the reason the way we got to neuron count was brain size. I think that's how the whole thing the whole empirical support for more sentience being replaced was based on one species of insect, and we got based on the neuron count, and then the neuron count was based on the brain size.
Yeah.
So what I looked at it was we actually said, okay, well, and I think that was assumed. It was like there were certain assumptions about the brain size, and from that he got certain assumptions. He like had some estimate about like the neuron count. But when I actually looked at the brain size of these insects, it was like way off, which led to like an orders of magnitude difference in the lower direction from what Brian got just based on assumption alone.
Yeah.
So when you look at
fair enough.
when you actually look at the reasoning based on that's the point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. I'm not contesting that. I mean, I'm trusting you that you debunked that. I mean, that you found this error.
You don't have to trust me. I'm trying.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I'm trusting that you're sincere about having found that error, even if it turns out you're wrong. And I'm presuming you're probably right. But I don't know. But no, what I wanted to point out though is maybe just, I mean, not regarding what Ryan said, but just about brain size. I don't think brain size correlates even necessarily that much with sentience. Given that, for instance, so that's what I was saying is that
Yeah.
maybe like different
Wait,
people have different
that's
brain
not.
sizes.
I'm not contesting that. Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
understand that. The only
yeah.
reason brain size is coming up again is not like to suggest it's a good sentience correlate. The reason
It's because he
it's
brought it up.
coming up is because neuron. Yeah, and the reason he brought it up is because neuron count is a better sentience
Yeah,
correlate than brain size alone. But the
yeah,
only
yeah, yeah. Okay, so
way we
neuron.
were
Yeah,
able to get neuron count is from the brain size of those insects.
yeah. Sure. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah. I mean, those are
the
good points.
ultimate datum that I'm challenging is not the brain size datum. The ultimate is the neuron count.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Okay. Yes. Okay. Agreed. Okay. Well, I think that yeah. I mean, I think you're right to criticize that definitely. Um, I just intuitively, I still think that insects have a fair degree of sentience, but obviously, I have no idea. And obviously, we can't really know. Like, how on earth would we know? Um,
Well, we can
and
make some inferences. I mean, it's not like that's always going to be an issue. But no, I think we can make some. But again, the ultimate issue, like round the circle, is going to be very much where we're left off. Is just yeah, data, please.
yeah, of course. But I think ultimately, I think we're gonna. I mean, as long as we're kind of stuck on this data please issue, I think we're
And just to be
never
clear,
gonna
but
get.
wait, but no. But just to be clear, like when I say data, please, I don't mean data, please, from a perspective of we have absolutely no information on we have no good data on the topic at all. It's data, please, from a perspective of all the data I've seen upon scrutiny and investigation points me to this not working and this working in the opposite direction. So like it's not like or just I'm stuck at
Okay.
agnosticism. I'm not stuck on
Okay.
agnosticism. Like where I
All
am
right.
of the available data indicates that this will actually worsen utility, not improve it.
Okay. Sure. I mean,
I
I
could
would.
be persuaded. Yeah,
Go
I could
ahead.
be persuaded off of it with countervailing data. That's fine. It's just that of the data I've seen so far, I'm veiling, not countervailing.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Okay. I guess my point is, I think there's this tendency to kind of, and this is what I had with the previous person I was just discussing with her right here.
Mhm.
I get the impression that there's a tendency among lots of people, especially more intellectual types of people, to like only take into account information that is more formal, that the information that you find in studies, and not the kind of, more this kind of informal stuff like we've been discussing, like the kind of presumably obvious, reduction in insect population from pesticides, which are precisely designed to like kill insects and
Yeah,
stuff.
no, I'm
And
not
um,
doing that. Yeah, and just because that's not what I'm doing. I'm not saying you suggested that's what I'm doing. But no. I look like anything. I don't say that the thing that only thing that carries weight are the formal studies and um, other considerations carry zero weight. But I'm
no,
just
of course.
yeah. I'm just suggesting that the things that carry the most weight have pointed me in one direction, and it's not clear that the things that carry less weight point me in the other direction. Um,
Yeah.
in fact,
My impression is that maybe we ultimately, like, how do you weight it? And I get the impression that ultimately we're going to be relying on some very intuitive factors that are going to be very hard to actually, bring to the light of day. And
when you say
so,
when you say wait, what are you referring to in terms of how we're going to weight? What is
yeah,
the it there?
like the weighting of these different factors, like how much importance we lend to different sources of information, essentially. Like when we've
Oh
got
yeah,
knowledge,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
what I mean.
I mean, but it doesn't. But nothing about my position will turn on that because even if I flipped it and I weighted uh, the type of considerations you're talking about at 99% and formal studies at 1%, my position would still lean in the same direction.
Okay, well, yeah, because I feel that it doesn't. Because the thing is that precisely
No, I
I'm still
understand.
stuck at
Yeah.
agnosticism on the issue, precisely because I get the impression
Well, the
that there's a
reason
different, yeah.
I may be more towards agnosticism if I flipped it, but it would still
Mm.
be in the same direction because at the end of the day, I have some data that does fairly clearly point me to one direction, and then there's a whole bunch of other considerations that it's not clear that it points in any direction. So on the net, that would still lead me to lean toward one position versus another. It wouldn't be. I mean, I might be more. It might be closer to 50-50 in the credence, but it wouldn't be 50-50.
Okay. Okay. I guess my position is that the data that we do have ultimately just covers such a small slice of the potential amount of sentient
Okay,
beings.
I'm not
that you
sure
see.
about. Yeah, I'm not of beings. Yes, but that's not really what I care about because the beings in question of the data we do have available are the beings I'm convinced are the most sentient.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and of course they're
yeah,
most sentient. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
sure. I mean,
they're going to
that's
be more weighty, not even in virtue of number, but I mean they have not in virtue of number, but because of the type of experience they have, they're going to be weighty. So I wouldn't hand it away as like what we have is just such a small piece of the pie. In terms of the thing we care about, it's not clear to me that that's just a small piece of the pie. It might be the biggest slice.
yeah. Okay, but it might be. But the thing is that we don't know, and that's
Right,
again why I'm
but
yeah.
but again,
And so what if
even
we're
then,
wrong?
like
You see, like what if it turns out that insects are actually pretty highly sentient, and
no,
that actually yeah.
yeah, I grant all. Listen, I'm granting all the possibilities.
Yeah, I
It's
know
not.
you are. I know you are, but it's just I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's
I get
just
the
if
feeling
it
that
turned out that we're very highly sentient, my position would be somewhat closer to agnosticism. However,
yeah.
it wouldn't be at agnosticism. All the available data would still give me reason to lead to the conclusion that replacement in this manner is not a good idea. I could
Okay.
be persuaded,
Okay.
but and at this point, so the only look, I could be persuaded off that. It's just I think I get it. You don't like reading studies, but
Yeah, no, I know
I think
I
if you're
know.
going to try to, that really is the appropriate next move.
I know it is. I know it is. Like I say, I can't be bothered really. The thing is, okay, how about just a thought experiment? Just if there was a study that indicated.
You really don't want to go studies, do you? Like, okay, I
No,
can tell.
I don't. I really don't want to because it's a hassle. Just like finding them is a hassle and then reading them is a hassle, and so like
But
to
let me
combine
just
this.
ask you: do you think your thought experiment is going to like generate like? Do I think is this a thought experiment where you think that I'm not going to generate like the same reply? Be like, okay, yes, in principle, I agree with this, or if what you're saying goes true, I agree. However, like I'm not convinced that that's actually the case. I can generate like countervailing like intuition pumps for me in the other direction. Like, what's the thought experiment gonna do? Because it seems to me like at this point, like
Well,
I
to
think the thought conceptual analysis is exhausted. There's not much more substantive things to say
yeah,
here.
okay,
I think
I guess you're right. There is not much more to say. I yeah, I guess and we have kind of gone around in circles a bit. So I think yeah, I think you're right actually. You're probably right that we've kind of
all right.
covered the topic mostly, and that you agree with what I've said in the reasoning of it, if not the actual.
In the
Yeah,
principle, provided that the empirics go through. Yeah,
yeah, and I
yeah,
agree
but
with what you've said as well. So I mean, I think we agree on that, and like ultimately it just comes down to like this issue of the studies and exactly how much how much importance and so of course we don't really exactly agree on that because I think it is a matter of how much importance we lend on that, but
well, to be
again we've
clear,
already covered that we've already
what I'm
covered
saying,
that so
but to be clear, I don't know if you don't agree with me on that because what I'm saying is I'm not suggesting that it doesn't matter. I'm suggesting it wouldn't, based on the available data, it wouldn't turn on whether I have a leaning in one direction or another.
yeah. What I would be interested in maybe is like just more in terms. See, I'm very action oriented ultimately, which is also why I don't necessarily care that much about reading stuff. I'm interested in achieving results, and I only care in reading stuff in as much as it enables me to know what results to aim for. And so, of course, then you would tell me that that I would have to read to know that, right? So, okay, fair enough. But just based on the action oriented aspect, um, would you say that currently there is enough evidence that we should, for instance, mandate veganism, or at least like an extremely high taxation on like meat products and other animal derived products like leather, or I don't know. Is that something that you sort of feel?
Yeah, I mean that's the sort of that's the sort of leaning I would have. Yeah. Certainly, if
Yeah.
we're talking about things like, yeah, I mean, yeah. So the answer, yeah, I mean, the direct answer is yes. In certain cases, it's more clear than others, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, especially
Okay.
if you're talking. I mean, the things are really clear, like poultry farming, chicken farming. I mean, this is like the highest stock density of like a non-trivially sentient animal in like torturous conditions. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
the answer is yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Okay. But yeah. But then yeah. Then again, there's the whole question: is like, should we just be like, would it suffice, for instance, to okay? So now, of course, now I'm just veering onto a completely different topic, right? But I mean, it's still based on the sort of utility thing, but now on the sort of other side, the more direct, aspect of the actual animals being farmed as opposed to the ones indirectly affected. But I mean, because I mean, the one thing you've got to realize is that, right? I mean, if we care about animals, obviously we're going to have to implement like political policies that will have an effect on them, and that should be, that should be the end
Yeah.
goal of pretty much anything we do, and even these discussions right now should ultimately serve to actually implement some kind of policy. And I don't really just believe in empty, talking for the sake of talking.
Yeah, I mean, I have policy prescriptions. Yeah, I mean, like, I think at the minimum we need so minimally, I think we need a major revamp of our agricultural system and what we consider acceptable and not acceptable for things to be legal.
Yeah.
I think probably the worst offenders are the poultry and pork industry.
Yeah, I agree.
Those take yeah, especially pork. I mean, they just rack them up in gestation crates, so I have the most horrible experience, and they're highly sentient, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just all concentrated in a very small area, and like everything probably that you could imagine is going horrible is going horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, clearly that, which is like, and then, but even, yeah, but I would say it for, I mean, yeah. So I'm just going to be repeating myself. My answer is yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So because like I would totally agree with that aspect. I think where it gets a lot more thorny is precisely like when you start considering, sort of, the kind of, livestock raising conditions where they're pretty decent, but maybe not all that great. The problem, of course, is that if they're all that great, it means it's probably like very extensive, which means it takes up a huge amount of land. But of course, it
And
becomes just
also,
unviable.
releases, and also, it's not just related to land, but it also has deleterious environmental effects that are
Yeah.
greater than if they were just concentrated.
Yeah, but of course, as I've been now arguing, it could actually even be in one way, a good thing by killing off all these wild animals, of course. But yeah, but otherwise,
Yeah,
obviously, it is a
right,
problem
but
also in other ways. I mean, it causes all sorts of problems.
yeah, because then you get to the area, because it could be, it ends up being a long-term problem for us
Yeah,
as well.
and of course, I mean, I want to say that in fact, this whole argument of supporting animal eating because it destroys the environment and that being ultimately a good thing. I mean, it's kind of absurd. I mean, you got to realize. I mean, I think presumably we all
Look,
recognize.
I don't think it's completely absurd. I mean, I think it's worthy of discussion.
Yeah,
I don't think,
but I mean,
I do think there are certain considerations. Like, I think there are a lot of cases where people take environmental importance to more than what I would take it to be, and they have certain views about environmental importance. Like, it's like the most gentle thing ever. It doesn't have any resilience at all. However, at the same time, I'm not in favor of just indiscriminately just destroying environments, or just creating like these long-term potential problems that are going to be a lot easier to solve if we didn't do something now than something that could create like runaway greenhouse effects or whatever that would be harder to deal with in the future. So
yeah, sure.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, agreed. I don't actually like. Again, I was just kind of playing devil's advocate, really, in this sense. Again, I actually the reason I came here is because I'm just a small Twitch live streamer, and somebody suggested to come on your channel, and so that's what I did. Well, I'm glad I came.
You sound a lot like I don't know if you heard of. Do you know Ethan Muse?
No, I don't know many.
He came here with because he came here. Yeah, just you remind me of him. Like, he came here with the exact same like essentially the exact same argument, and like he's very similar manner. It was like the thing, like, oh, I just came to play devil's advocate. I'm not saying that's, which is fine. But like, yeah, like people, it's like I have a deja vu moments. Like all the same things are being said,
Okay.
and we got to the same. We obviously are getting to the same place we got before.
Yeah,
So-
obviously. Yeah, I pretty much said everything I wanted to say on the topic. I certainly appreciate that your discussion and your sort of even-handed approach to this, and your you sort of both your reasoning and your cordial manner. So that was nice. It's true that sometimes
For sure.
in some other places, some people people get quickly a bit upset, and that's sort of a a bit
on the
less
internet,
pleasant, yeah.
never. That would never happen. That would never happen online.
My mistake.
Right. But anyway, yeah, I think I agree. I said what I've said as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and dip. But yeah, it was nice meeting and nice talking to you.
Yep, sure.
And if you ever
likewise.
do end up having, a data, then yes, happy to take a look at it.
All right, sure. Okay, see ya then.
All right, take care.
Bye. Take care. Oh, is there anybody still here on my chat? I turned off my speech chat because like somebody recommended, because I was just really too it was too hard to follow otherwise. Let's turn this back on. I can't believe I got sucked into this. I was just wanting to just make a sort of mini, my whole thing was just I'd make a mini stream to do this. Mental states. Okay, that was a great convo. Are you vegan? Hey buddy, long time no see. Yeah, hey mental states. Nice to see
Salut
you.
JDNE comprens pas les vegan vous avez le droit de l'être mais l'imposer pas auxiliary autre.
Écoute, moi je crois que la plupart des gens ici ne sont pas végans de toute façon, donc c'est pas à nous que tu dois t'adresser. Mais enfin, c'est quoi ton problème avec? Et effectivement, si tu peux, plutôt parle en anglais parce que les autres ici ne parlent pas le français. Que je sache. Wait, and so what did other people say here? I'm just going back. Yo, you be grassy and prey animal, be turtle with pack hunter. So I guess what's being said. Pasture land, yes. Yeah, mental states. Thanks for agreeing with me that it seems
Hello,
pretty
English.
obvious.
It's okay to be a territorial pack hunter.
Yeah, okay, but what do you actually mean in practice by that? Like nowadays, what do you mean by being a territorial pack hunter? But I agree, intensive agriculture kills insects, doesn't it? Isn't that a pretty widely recognized thing? Is there really a need for a study for that? The only thing I could imagine is that there's some super pesticide resistant insect that just somehow miraculously survives, and as a result it breeds so much that it replaces in numbers all the other insects. Okay, so that's possible, and I was thinking of that, but honestly, I don't get the impression that's the case. I really get the impression that there's just a lot more insects in unpesticided land. So I agree that between forest and pasture, that is not clear at all, and there could well be more in pasture, right? And even so, forest is natural, and pasture is artificial. But what I was thinking about is more forest versus some ultra artificial, ultra full of pesticides crop. And to me, that seems very clear that there's going to be a lot less insects in the crop. And that seemed like somehow that's this Avi didn't really seem to see things like that, which I found odd.
Yeah,
To me, that
industrial
just seemed
scale crop production is hazardous.
It seems to be a pretty obvious thing, right? So Robert Murphy, hi, if you're still here.
What was the thought experiment you wanted to do?
No, it wasn't. It's just the same old stuff. It just basically the thought experiment. It's not a thought experiment. Just imagining if we had a study, would you agree with this principle? But I mean, we'd already covered that. He was right. So that's why I just dropped it. I mean, there was really little to say, really. I mean, basically the question is just how many insects are there, and I recall, so that's what I was trying to find, and I couldn't find it. If somebody can find this for me, and it's in this thing like effectivealtruism.org, or you look at the like how many insects are there on artificial in artificial cropland versus forest. But again, the whole thing is absurd, right? And it goes against everything like that we normally tend to think, right? Normally we want to preserve nature, we don't want to destroy it. And yet the argument here is that meat eating is good because it destroys nature and thereby reduces the amount of wild animal suffering. But obviously that kind of seems absurd, especially when you think that like nature also produces ecosystem services and stuff, and destroying it could have bad consequences. Now, I don't actually think that it's all that important. I don't think that the natural ecosystems do all that much, and that I don't think we need them really. But still, it does seem absurd. And then there's just the aesthetic aspect. I mean, I'm the first one to like care about nature conservation and stuff. I mean, having been just like very much into that since
Avi is
a
my
kid.
dream man. NGL.
Okay. So I don't know if anybody here wants to add something. In a way, I would almost kind of prefer to just to speak with the people here, because
What we need
know
is
the people
scaling
here.
down and more regional food production. Too little people are involved and monocultures are a threat for biodiversity.
But I get that's not necessarily true. You know why? Because the thing is that certainly more intensive agriculture, it takes up less land. And what does that mean? It means that there's less natural land that gets converted to cropland. And this is, see, I used to be very much, when I was younger, like as a teen, I was like, yeah, we should go back to sort of more, more traditional types of farming and stuff. And it seems nice, but actually, typically it's less productive. Not necessarily, like it's true that there are potentially some things that are that you can achieve like similar results, but especially if you're going to be doing like raising animals on wide pasture instead of doing something like concentrated or something, I think you're not going to be able to produce as much food per unit area, which means you're going to have to destroy more nature to produce the same amount of food. So that's why I've become much more sympathetic to intensive agriculture, and especially given that there's still like even now there are people that don't have enough to eat, although that's just because of an
Were
issue
you
of
nervous
poor
debating in
distribution.
front of 50 people?
No, not at all, actually. I just sort of saw these people pop up, but no, I'm not nervous. I don't get nervous in front of crowds. I'm like, you would think I would be, because I was shy as a kid, and like I was, I don't have any friends, so you'd think I'm this sort of like introvert person that kind of just like would clam up a bit. But actually, no, that was fine. I didn't even really see them. I didn't see them as an audience, right? I just saw them as other debaters, precisely because they joined the thing. So I thought they were gonna talk.
The amount of land used for agriculture has dropped since the Green Revel, Yoshin, even though the population has grown substantially 3 or 4 times over. Well, if you think you're a moral superior to all of them, then if it makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think I'm a moral superior, and I think I'm a rational superior. So that's why it's pretty easy, and that's why it's easy for me to say like I'm stupid, right? Because okay, I
Do
may be
you think
stupid.
Avi is evil?
Well, compared to me, and probably only in practice. Like it's hard to know, like because I distinguish functional evil from theoretical evil. So like Avi seemed to agree with these principles of like quote utilitarianism of of pleasure and suffering and stuff. So I think for me that's all that's required to be fundamentally good, and then to be like good in practice means actually coming up with the right policies that will help achieve that. So for all I know, Avi would have the same like fundamental, moral principles. So in that sense, in fundamentals, Avi would be equally moral as me.
He didn't
So
agree with your moral system, he agreed that it was non-contradictory.
it seemed to me that Avi did agree also with, but maybe not. Yeah, it's true that he might have just gone along with it. I don't know if you know what Avi's moral system is. Um, I
Dude,
don't.
how can you be superior? You don't provide for a wife and children.
But what the heck? Like that just like some weird MAGA shit. Um. Anyway, like I mean, yeah, I mean that kind of stuff is absurd, right? This providing of stuff for wife and children. Um. Like sure, it's good of you to do that, and it's helpful for society and stuff. But we should be aiming for a society where there isn't a need to do that, right? Where
I
just
think
robots.
Avi is a moral anti-realist.
Oh, really? Okay. But then why would you even care about veganism at all if you're moral anti-realist? Then you're a nihilist and you just kind of just like do whatever. Secondly, I'm an incel, which means like literally like I would be glad to. Well, now I can't, of course, because I'm like too infirm to work. But I would have been glad to have like a wife or whatever. But like that was not given to me, so obviously that can't be held against me. As for children, I think as the number one main character of this planet, it would just be too hard on kids to they would just have too much attention, so that just wouldn't be fair for them. I mean, it wouldn't be good for them. It would just
Denying
I
human
don't.
nature as a territorial pack hunter is destructive. It's fake empathy. Do you think the state should give men wives?
Do I think the state should give men wives? No, I don't. I'm just pointing out that you can't hold it against me. Obviously, I don't think that the state should. I mean, I'm not one of those people. What I think rather is that again we should stop focusing on this idea of sort of the survivalist kind of thing, right? Obviously, that like it was useful at a time, but I think that we're now reaching the stage where that kind of system is no longer needed.
Why do you say you're an incel?
Well, because I am an incel. So like that kind of a thing is no longer needed. Like there's no longer like women can also work and be independent, and so there isn't like before there was really this need for having like because a woman couldn't both take care of like the household
Why do you
stuff
hate women?
and children, and at the same time like produce on top of that like like crops and stuff. It was just too much. So it made sense to have like this division of labor, and to have like the system where the woman needs to have a man to take care of her and stuff like that. It made sense. So I'm not opposing
Because no
the
woman has
principle.
selected him as a maid.
Yeah, so yeah, basically that. I yeah, I'm not opposed to that general principle, but I think nowadays that's no longer needed, and as such, I don't support this idea of perpetuating like the traditional family model like that, especially like as as a non-external worker wife, as something that should be a norm and something that that like we shouldn't frown upon people who don't follow that model. And especially like soon enough people shouldn't people
Have you ever tried a brothel?
Yeah, um, that was my recent saga of the past few months. I first went in January, and then went in February, and then again in June. But like it's not fun. It's just
Female selection is a harsh phenomena, but they select on ability to provide and sustain offspring.
Yeah, but I mean that's true, except that they no longer even select because the past criteria for that are like pretty different from the current criteria. So it's not even really the case, in fact. So yeah. No, so of course what I'm aiming for is more the long run. Like I recognize that just in the short run and medium run, in medium term, there's just not going to be. It's going to be imperfect, and there's going to be just necessarily a fair amount of frustration, and we just have to accept that. In the long term, like I've said, what I actually most support is so on one hand,
normal women look at men with very critical eye.
So
I think the criteria has always been the appearance of competence, whether it's an illusion or reality.
Appearance of competence. Well, is it just competence? It could also be. It's also largely status. or it could be strength. It's not exactly. But then you could say that those would be indicators of competence. So it's more like appearance of what would be fitness in the sense of enabling more offspring in a primitive environment, and to a degree also in the modern environment, obviously, since it's not just for a primitive environment, but obviously there's some of the stuff that is skewed, just like with food, right? Where we like to eat like junk food because in the past it was healthy for you, in fact, to what would now be junk food, which is unhealthy for you. But so anyway, so economically, like I've said, the aim is automation and basic income, and for that kind of stuff, for the sort of pairing up issue, which I think is important. So for this sort of social issue, well, my favorite model is what I've already brought up, is the hermaphrodite model. And so hi, by the way, it's apparently your first time here. I Platinum Soul AD Soul Die. Oh, yeah, it's the hermaphrodite model, the futa, which is like the Japanese term for that, which is
No
sort
one of the
known as that.
criteria is material wealth and possession. When I was a young man, I hated that and thought women were hardcore materialists. Why don't you just like me for my mind?
Yeah, I know it's
Would
one
you
of the
ever
criteria.
date an ADIQ Southern Christian woman?
So no, so yeah, so Mental says I'm not denying that it's partly also their current ability to provide, but some of the criteria are not based on current ability to provide, like the criterion of being like sort of big and strong. That's not based on the current ability to provide. So, but it's based on former ability to provide. So that's my point. Would you ever date an ADIQ Southern Christian woman? What do you mean by date? Like, if she was sort of nice and stuff, I could sort of like have her as sort of casual girlfriend, I guess. I certainly wouldn't want to like end up with a person like that. Yeah, that's kind of my position. So yeah, so like I said, my favorite model, and I'm still very keen on this, is, and I've already explained it
What if
before.
it was her or no one?
Then I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's her or no one. What I want is the futa model, because what's great about the futa model is that then everybody has the same taste, right? There's just one sex at that point. There's just one sex, so there isn't this issue of one sex being more selective than the other. And there isn't this issue of one, particular roles in that. There's no more problems with sexism, right? And so then there's no more complaint about that either. It solves everything.
Women
right?
also love male artisans. You can swoon them with playing guitar well, but still a poor unsuccessful artist do not attract many mates.
Yeah. I mean, because there's a combination of these different factors. Yeah, so that's obviously, I think, what we should be aiming for. Or if not, if you want to have like separate sex, there's be no point.
I
to have separate
remember your
sexes at
way
that
to
point.
achieve the globalist pipe dream was by getting a big tit third world GF to pimp out for clout.
Yes, I mean, that is still the plan. However, I have, having failed at that in the way that I was hoping, and having recognized that ultimately that is not what I wanted. And ultimately, it wasn't initially what I wanted, and then it was sort of just an idea I had, realizing that my initial scenario that I wanted wasn't that. So what I actually want is rather precisely that, but who escaped from the third world and who already just made it to the developed world, and we would
Are any
meet
of
in the
your
developed world.
interactions with women
And-
online?
And so that's actually what I'm actually hoping for now, and I'm just waiting for to meet one like I was sort of hoping before. And I agree, because it's sort of it's a bad image, right? It's a bad image to like go to poor country to get a girl like that. That's not what I want. And it's never what I wanted, but I just figured like I'll try at least, and I'm glad I tried, because otherwise it was nothing. It was that or nothing, so I figured I would try. And having tried, it didn't work. But the thing, because I didn't just want that, right? It's not just like a big tip, like or something. It's like I
If
wanted
all
her to be
fails,
attractive, sure,
you
but
can still
especially I
donate
wanted
to a
her to
sperm
have.
bank. Laugh all you want, but it is a viable strategy to get offspring.
I wanted to have someone that I really had a personality that I liked, which would mean as someone that is better than anyone I've ever met, right? So that would be extremely unlikely. So it's not going to work just by just randomly trying. And precisely the thing is that someone that I would really like, I would imagine, would be somebody who would escape, who'd want to leave, and who'd just do anything she could to escape, like a sort of a shitty third world country. So that's why ultimately I kind of came to the
Destiny found
conclusion
his
that
wife in Anzi.
Really? Did he? Huh. That's interesting. But it seems to me that she's like Scandinavian, isn't she? I remember seeing that. Like, I don't know much about Destiny, but I do recall that.
Yeah, she's Swedish though.
Yeah. But and the sperm back, like, I don't care, right? I don't care about my genes, right? Like, I don't care about having offspring. That's just like, obviously our
Pure-blooded North
desires.
Germanic Aryan blood.
Obviously our desires are based
That didn't
on
even make sense.
How did that not make sense? That didn't make sense. Basically, our tastes are based on what tends to generate the most offspring, but that doesn't mean that that's actually what is good for us, right? What's actually good for us is precisely not to just be a slave to our genes, which want us to create more offspring, but rather just to what is actually enjoyable for us. And as such, to me, having offspring does not give me enjoyment. So I don't feel any need to do that. So I'm not gonna try to do that. I have no interest in that. But yeah, so either we go in the long run, either what you do is have a single sex, so basically no sex, or we have the separate sexes have the same tastes for one another, so that there's no discrepancy, so there's no frustration. And of course, what you do is that
Blonde
everybody
women
would
have
be
nice
considered
pink pussy
attractive.
and pretty pink butthole. I understand Destiny's choice.
You see what I mean? It means that everybody would find people, like lots of people who would be into them, and it would be easy to just pair up with people, and that's obviously what should be done, right? So you'd combine that obviously with eliminating diseases. You'd combine that with eliminating ugliness and eliminating aging, right? That's what that's what needs to be done. And it's weird how people aren't focusing on that. Like, it's funny how all these people who complain about all their issues and stuff about how they can't find mates and stuff. They never see the big picture. They don't focus on the long term of the possibility of doing that. It's like they don't feel. I don't know. It doesn't occur to them that is
Did
the
you
obvious
enjoy
solution.
the brothel experience? Do you
No,
say how old you are?
It wasn't awful, but it was okay, I guess. Do I say how old I am? What do you mean, here, or to who? To you? To women that are like, what do you mean?
Here.
I'm on stream. What do you want me to say it? I'm 30. Is that what you want me to say? I'm not. I have no problem saying my age.
He's between 28 to 32.
Yeah. I'm between 10 and 50. But yeah, I don't recommend going to a brothel. I don't think it's I thought I would try it because I wanted to.
Between 1 and 99.
Yeah. I thought I would try it, and obviously hoping that one would want to be my girlfriend.
Why not go bald?
Because it's a hassle. Because you have to you have to shave yourself then all the time, and it looks weird. Here you can maybe see it depends on the lighting. Here it looks, this kind of looks like shit, but normally you don't really see it. Does sort of, and it protects the hair protects me from the sun. I had my hair really down very short last year, but No, this is better like this. It's better, and I mean, it looks less odd. It looks less odd to have it like this. Honestly, this is
Why don't
I
you get a hair transplant?
because I don't want the fakeness. I don't want the fakeness. And I mean, the hairline is pretty. I mean, the hairline hasn't changed since I was a teenager. It's just gotten more sparse here. When my hair's long, you can't even see that it's
Weren't
that
you a
sparse.
doctor in Switzerland?
Yeah, but I stopped from my post-COVID illness. But yeah, and you
Personally,
can
I
see
think
here.
forced monogamy and arranged
See,
marriages will ensure family life for more men and will make societies more sustainable. The current free
it's just
sex
this that
thing of
looks
the
a bit
sexual
weird.
revolution is not sustainable for society. Reproduction numbers drop below replacement.
Um, well, I don't think that would actually probably change much. The things that that's sort of weird that you say that, right? Because in practice, most people do get married, and there's like that's not what's
Free
stopping.
sex only benefits women and a few number of men.
That is not what's actually making like birth rates drop. You'd actually have to like force impregnation, not just force monogamy, but like forced impregnation. Um, pretty much anything short. I mean, yeah, okay. So
Reproduction numbers drop in every country that enters the advanced society state.
yeah, and it's just people don't want to have like, and it's not like males want to have all these kids either. Like, just people don't want to have that many kids. Uh, and look, and there's plenty of people. The thing is that there's so many people already on Earth, and it's causing
You'd
an
have to
environmental
destroy
strain.
Western civilization to turn around the birth/death ratio.
Um, well, maybe not, but you'd have to probably implement some pretty drastic measures. I mean, you can see that there's like and actually in Western Europe, there's there's higher birth rates than Eastern Europe, for instance. So it's not
No more
it's
women in the workplace. Good luck with that.
yeah, but even then it's like, yeah, obviously if you just recreate the whole traditional system of having like just
Western Europe
women
women
be.
are the worst.
No, really, they're not. They're the best. And they're still bad. They're still bad, but they're still clearly the best. Just because it's the people that are best. Um, everywhere else they're just even weirder. Um, but yeah, no, like
Western Europe is pretty vague.
yeah, but no, but it's still like
Estonia and
favored
Finland
pretty.
got the baddest bitches.
But so what I would say is that um, basically,
They look
yeah,
good but their mentality is ruined.
no, I mean the mentality is the best. Even though, but it's still trashy, and in some ways it's worse, perhaps. But the thing is that the reason it's worse is because it's actually more conservative in a way, which is bizarre. But in a way, I've noticed that actually many women in the West actually sort of act more like weak and weak and passive and submissive, and so that's what would make them actually worse because they're actually bizarrely they're more conservative and they're more anti-Western in some like I've yeah, that's weird. But so I would agree in that sense. But I guess the women that actually act like you would expect Western women to act are the best. The thing is that in fact most Western women don't act like that. So that's why
Source.
I don't. Source is my long years of experience. Um, but it's the reality is that it's actually pretty similar everywhere. From what I can tell, it's just kind of the same. They're just all kind of they're all like that. The reason I don't like them is because they're all conservatives. They're all like just very passive and they're just really very sexist, but in a conservative sense, right? So they want you to be like very sort of macho and stuff, and uh, I don't like that. And so and I can't do it anyway. But so the point is, I like even if I could get women, I would just
You're a
dump
liberal
them.
incest, that's curious.
You mean incel, not incest. But yeah, I consider myself a real incel. I think
Incel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even consider myself liberal, right? I'm my own thing. I'm an List, but I'm certainly more liberal. I mean, liberals are closer to me than conservatives. I'm certainly very much anti. To me,
My
Lism is
bad
like,
bro, autocorrect totally not thinking ABT my sister RN.
yeah, I'm to me, Lism is like the opposite of conservatism. So I'm even more
Weak
far
and
away from.
permissive. If you ever have been in a relationship, she decides on how to run a household. Women are not biologically wired to choose mates. Evolutionarily speaking, men chose. Females had no choice in the matter. You ain't the boss, bro.
What? So what are you saying? So wait. So first, gender. No, females tend to be the chooser one. Precisely, women, like females in general, in most species, they are the chooser ones. That's how we get all this Fisherian sexual
Would you
selection.
date a trans woman?
Fisherian sexual selection, the famous peacock teal, right? How does that happen? It's because from the females choosing the ones with the biggest tail. Otherwise, it would never happen. Women are the ones who get to choose. They are absolutely wired to choose.
Women had no choice in the Stone Ages. As men are stronger.
Yeah, but that's actually not how it works. Yeah, you think that it's just that they just sort of grab who they want, but actually, that's
No, not
not
true.
how it
Women
works.
had a lot of family guidance, including older women of the family.
Because what happens in practice is that the women can't, the men can't just. I mean, sometimes they do, but mostly what they use their strength to fight one another, right? And then the winner gets the woman. So it's not just that all the strong
Trans.
men take all the women. Okay, so I'm not sure mental states. What do you mean by weak and permissive? If you've ever been in a relationship, she decides on how to run the household. You ain't the boss, bro.
All marriages used to be arranged,
All marriages to be
since
arranged.
it decides the makeup of the clan.
Yeah, but so you're saying that weak and permissive? I'm not sure. Do you mean that I'm weak and permissive? Do you mean that they are weak and permissive? I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Would I date a trans woman? I'm not sure. I've wondered that. I've wondered that. I'm nothing. I mean, I don't have anything against the principle. I mean, I have nothing against homosexual stuff either. On
No,
the
strong women
principle,
always have been a thing.
I
Mental states was insulting you, but I think he took too much cocaine and is only literate in American.
but I mean, mental states isn't even from America. It's like from some European country, like it's Dutch or something. I'm still not. I still don't really understand what mental states is meaning, apart from
Hell
strong
no,
women
I'm
always.
Dutch.
Yeah, mental states is right. Yeah, so I'm not sure, but I tried. I even did a gay Tinder thing. I got some gay Tinder matches, and then I decided, no, this is. I don't want this. So I, yeah, who knows? I mean, but I do sort of instinctively find the idea a bit odd of the trans thing, right? Because it's
Aren't
still.
you worried that your meat eating is entirely based on unfounded anecdotal data that 150 IQ people like Dr. Avi can debunk in their sleep?
Nope,
The general
I'm not worried.
disposition of women is not being weak and permissiveness.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. I'm not sure. I
I
don't even
turn my
know.
Tinder on gay and get 100 matches in 10 minutes. On female I get once a month.
Okay, so yeah, same here. Same here. General disposition of women is not being weak and permissiveness. Yeah, they have this kind of sort of being uptight about little household rules and stuff. Yeah, I know that. But at the same time, they still like to be inferior overall and still sort of being weak, and they just then being sort of nitpicky about sort of little crap. Um, yeah, I know, I know. They're not just about being permissive for household stuff, but nonetheless, see, they're the opposite of why I want, basically, in a sense, right? I would want them to be more permissive, but also more strong. And the thing is that they're kind of the opposite. And I don't mean strong like in a sort of obnoxious sort of, like I don't like macho people, like I don't like macho males, I don't like macho, I wouldn't want a macho female, right? That's not what I mean by strong. I just don't mean this sort of it's hard to describe, right? It's sort of this feel that you get of this sort of just kind of, like I say, it's
Stoic.
partly. No, I don't want stoic. I mean, a bit resilient. Yes, stoic. No, because stoic tends to mean like unemotional, and I don't really want that either, right? I want someone who's like quite warm, you know. So it's just that it's more that they, you know, you can see it in their relationships. You know, they sort of are very like self-centered, and they want to be taken care of, and they want to be, and you can see it in their criteria. You know, they want somebody who's better than them in every way, right? Because they want somebody who's taller and stronger and smarter and richer and braver and, you know, everything like superior
I
in
am
every way,
extremely
right?
stoic.
You see what you see. Um, this is what that's sort of what I mean. How they sort of have this fetish of self inferiority, and I find that frustrating because I just want to be like on the same level. I want to have like, you know, a friend, and they want to be more like a pet, you know, but a pet that's like very demanding, but still a pet, like a cat that's like arrogant and that will like scratch you if you don't do things the right way, but that you still just sort of have to take care of like a cat. And women, like I've noticed that they're like this everywhere. And you know, and I used to think it was like, you know, it was societal oppression, and I used to think, you know, we should, you know, we need more feminism to because
At
women are
Senator
acting like
Curie,
this
you are
because
delusional.
of
People love and need
like, you
meat
know.
eating, and take killing animals for granted. Humans are territorial pack hunters.
So, you know, this is sort of, that's what I was thinking. Then I realized, no, it's not that society is imposing this on them. It's that they actually act like that. They don't. It's not that society is oppressing them. It's that they act oppressed. I mean, in the sense of very sort of subdued and, you know, and sort of subservient, while at the same time being arrogant and kind of demanding and sort of, and actually quite difficult at the same time. So it's
I
combined,
only ever met
right?
one woman that wasn't submissive pet-like, and she was batshit insane.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me, right? And so this is exactly what I'm saying. And so, like, even if you get a rare person that isn't like that, then they're just going to be insane. And
What?
so this is kind of this is the problem. Is I've come to realize that there just really isn't anybody out there for me. I mean, like I still kind of think there is because I'm optimistic, right? But like the numbers are extremely low, right? Like there's just going out and trying to find people. I'm never going to find someone, right? I need actual divine intervention, which is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting the Gorth to actually like make this to make this happen. Because that's the only way. By
You
chance,
can't
the
find
chances.
1 in 3.5 billion women. That's pretty crazy. I know no Dutch women. Are you from an Asian culture where women are raised to be submissive?
You know, no. I think you. What do you mean? You know, no Dutch women? Or you mean Dutch women aren't like that? Yeah, but like Dutch women are gonna, then they're gonna be difficult still in their own way, right? And they're still gonna be like that. They're still gonna be sort of submissive.
Dutch women are bossy dude.
Yeah, but they're submissively bossy. They're bossy like your cat is bossy, right? They're still pet like that.
Dutch
That's what I
women
mean.
look fire.
I'm gonna. That's better like that. That's what I mean. Yes, like it's hard to explain. Yeah, they're submissively
You need to
bossy.
cool down, ha ha ha.
And so this is the thing. I've come to realize that there's just nobody with a decent personality for me. I mean, not no, like nobody in practice, like not enough for them to be findable. Um, and so there's just nothing I can do. There's nothing that can be done. Um, so so that's why I'm just back to waiting. Now I'm just back to waiting for essentially a miracle. Because in the sense that not, it wouldn't be magical, but it would be still, you know, guided by the Gorth. Um, so I'm just waiting for an event to happen that the Gorth does for me. And that's the only thing I can do now. I've nothing else is gonna work. But it is frustrating. It is frustrating. And it's really quite astounding. I mean, as a kid or as a teenager, I kind of expected it to be fairly hard, but I didn't expect it to be this hard. I didn't expect it to be just pretty much impossible like it actually is. I expected there would be
Try
a
to
lot
get
more
a
decent
decent
people.
job, a decent car, a decent house, and act like an all-rounded social being. Women will show interest.
Yeah, that's pretty difficult. But I mean, I was like that in my first year. I mean, when I was working as a doctor, the 1 year I worked as a doctor, but it's not like that seemed to really help. Um, that doesn't really work either. And again, I don't want just a woman who's interested, right? And again, I don't want a woman who wants me for a job. I don't want a woman who wants me for a car or a house or for being a social being, right? I want one who
At the
wants me when I don't have those
_Nathan_L,
things.
did you ever have women approach you? I was asked out several times in HS.
Yeah, no. No. That see, I prefer that. I mean, that makes more sense because it's women are the ones who are pickier, and so there's going to be a lot less wasted interactions if they're the one who do the approaching, and as a result, it also, to me, it just makes sense for them to like. As a result, I would appreciate them more because they've done the logical thing. Whereas if they expect me to approach them, they're not doing the logical thing. They're being the lazy ones, and they're basically not doing their fair share. And so I don't like that. I'd already resent them a bit for that. And then
At Yendrik Bender, I don't think this happens to most guys.
And then on top of that, there's a thing that I just my own psychology is just built in a way that
I took the bad boy route.
I respond
Lots of
to
bad
it a lot.
intentioned women. Bro, don't take the bad boy route. Yeah. It never happened to me after HS. Ever.
Yeah, the thing is that my own psychology is built in a way that I basically enjoy it a lot more. I just respond to it a lot more and feel a lot more attraction if she's the one who makes the initial move. And so and not just showing interest, but actually like overtly overtly like asking out. Yeah, I've had plenty of, like, not plenty, but like, of some amount of girls like showing that they liked me by me doing little smiles and stuff, and that turns me off. So like, and plus, of course, back in the day, I just didn't know what to say, and I've never been a good talker, and I still just, I have no idea what to say. And that's also why I think they should approach me, right? Like, I'm the one who I'm one of the worst talkers among all the people I know.
I don't know how
Why
Swiss
should I be
prison
the
works,
one?
but in
Why should I
America,
be
if
the
you
one
find someone who
approaching,
can facilitate a connection between you and a woman in prison where they can have conjugal visits, that puts you in a very advantageous position since they're very desperate.
Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. Again, that's the thing. I don't want that kind. I don't want a desperate person. I don't want
Don't
someone
forget,
to
women
depend
love
on.
mischief. Being just a nice guy just won't cut it. Too boring.
Yeah, but the thing is that I don't want a woman who doesn't want a nice guy. See, so like, basically, even if I became a sort of a mischievous whatever, and I got a woman who liked me because of that, then I wouldn't like her, right? I wouldn't like her, and I would just dump her. So there's
LUL, that's a good strat actually.
so there's no point. That's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna try, because anyone I would actually feel comfortable with would not want me for any of those things. They don't want I don't want someone who wants me for
Modern
any of those
problems
attributes.
require modern solutions.
So, in fact, I realized that not doing anything, which is what I'd done for a long time, was actually until I first then started, did this whole thing of trying to approach people and sort of, which didn't work. But before then, for a long time, I didn't do anything. And then when I started approaching, I was thinking maybe I should have approached a long time ago, but actually no, because even if I did approach, it wouldn't have yielded a satisfactory outcome. In fact, this is the best outcome for me. The best outcome for me is doing nothing. I'm actually better off with nobody. I'd rather just be with nobody than be with someone I don't like. And that would be pretty much anyone. I mean, this is almost nobody I would like to be with. So, this is the best I can do. Just doing nothing, and not trying, not even doing these slight things that they tell you to do. Not even just not even getting a job. It's even better to not have a job. I'm not even gonna say I used to be a doctor. I just say I have no job. That's better. Um, I have no job, and I just and for all these things, I don't want them to want me for those things. Um, so yeah, like I'm saying, now I'm just waiting.
Have you
And
ever visited Southeast Asia streamer?
not like that. But I don't think I would. No, I don't think. Again, I was once in Singapore and Malaysia for 2 weeks. That didn't seem promising. I know that that's
Bro,
not
I
like
now
this.
just wanna smack you. Get out of this mindset.
No, it's not this mindset. That is me. The bad mindset was the other mindset. The mindset of thinking that I had to develop all these things that would get women to like me.
Probably Thailand would be better.
Yeah, Thailand's better. Philippines is better. We know that's the standard sex tourist stuff. But I don't want that.
You could get a Thai girl for sure.
No, because it would be weird, right? It would be the thing where she like wants you because she's hoping for you to bring her back to your home country. She wants you for the passport or for the money. She wants you to pay for stuff. I don't want that. I'd rather be on my own. Like why like why on earth would I want to be with someone like that? Like that brings me negative enjoyment precisely. Like it's a burden. Why the
Well,
heck
it's
would I?
also a racial thing as well.
Yeah, but most of them, in any case, mostly they want people of their own race, right? This idea that they prefer like Europeans is not even it's not even true. They like Europeans because it's associated with high status and money and stuff. It's not. It's not that they actually prefer Europeans. And anyway, I wouldn't want someone to want me like out of like a sort of weird racism thing either. Um, so no, that's not. I've thought about all
Real
this. I've
women,
thought about it a
the
lot.
women that mean something, stand for something will walk all over you. Get your act straight. Every
What?
race prefers their own race, but white men are the most popular second option.
Most popular is like, yeah, probably, yeah, it does appear to be the case in most instances. Yeah, but again, it's mostly as a result of status and money. Yeah, I'm not sure again what you mean mental states by that. Again, the thing is that I don't tolerate women who are actually like who act in a way I don't want, right? What they do if they walk all over me, I'm just gonna dump them. Okay, so like I'm not concerned about that. They actually don't get to walk over jack shit, right? Because they won't be with me anymore. So there's no risk about that. But when I was younger, yes, when I was younger, I would have been sort of simpy just for just because I wouldn't have known. It's not even that I would have actually enjoyed being with her, right? But I just wouldn't have known what else to do, and I just figured like I have to go through motions. I have to do this to get her to like me, and yeah. But see, that's the thing. If you like get a job to get a woman, if you work out to get a woman, if you do anything to try to get women, that's actually you being a simp for them. That's actually you sort of pandering to them, kowtowing to them. So that's actually you being, like the one who's being excessively concerned about them, about what they think of you, about you're being the one who's being a people pleaser. You're the one who's being walked over, right? By refusing to do that, I'm actually not getting walked over. You see what I mean?
Strong-willed women, women that get what they want will never choose a weak-willed man that can't get what he wants. Would you date a man?
Well, like the data man thing, I said I don't have anything against the principle. I went on the gay Tinder thing, but then when I thought think about it a little bit more, I was like, no, I'm just not into this. So I just no, it's just not my thing. It's not my thing. I've thought about it before. I've had gay people come up to me a few times in a way that women never have, but it's just not really my thing.
Bro, he not into cornholing.
But so cornholing. But anyway, Well, it's not a question of will about getting what I want. You can have as strong a will as you want. Sometimes you just can't do things, no matter how strong is your will. The thing is that I have a much stronger will than most people, in as much as I actually know precisely what I want. I have an idea of, what is good and bad, both like not just in policy issues, but also in people. So I'm actually among the people who know the best these things, and I'm actually particularly strong-willed. But I do give people a benefit of the doubt, so you don't really get to see that, right? Because at first, I'm just sort of kind of feel the waters, and it sort of looks like I'm just kind of all over the place, not really having any sort of strong positions. But that's actually couldn't be further from the truth. It's just that at first you don't really know what people are like, and you just kind of
Sorry,
get a
but
feel
you
for it.
confuse opinionated with strong-willed.
No, sorry, you don't understand what being strong-willed truly means. And this actually brings me to, oh yes, so this brings me to a good topic. Okay, so this is the perfect thing. So it's getting late for me here. It's
I
1:51
don't think so.
a.m. I do think so. And this is a perfect occasion for this. Okay, so, and screw you, mental states, by the way. Okay, so 1:51 a.m. here. I'm tired, and so this is a perfect. This is actually what I want to get at. The whole reason I'm streaming. I'm not streaming again.
Thank you, I love you too.
So I'm not streaming because I want to actually continue to stream anymore.
Are you
I'm
gonna
streaming.
stream tomorrow?
No, I'm not.
Get your
so
ass
this
married.
so this brings me back again to why I've been streaming in here in the first place. And so I sort of got sidetracked in here, but part of the reason is precisely because I wanted to have an extra opportunity to do so, and I'm realizing that now I'm finally getting to that opportunity. So what I'm going to say is that while I have a sort of fairly friendly tone here with the streamers on here, the whole reason I've ever been streaming is actually because I was hoping to get like success, like much more like fame through this, which obviously was a long shot. The reason I thought it might work is because of this whole Gorth thing, that I thought that the Gorth might arrange for it to happen. Now I no longer expect that. So
how can you expect to get success if you don't stream consistently?
Because I did stream consistently for a while, and then I plateaued. So that's why. And so as a result, I'm not streaming here just for the fun of it. I'm not streaming here for like buddies. It's not for that. Okay. And let me be clear about this. Everyone I've met pretty much is immoral compared to me, and is irrational compared to me. So you're all evil idiots. Okay. And so, especially like what you've been saying, mental states there, that specifically makes me want to say that to you. And specifically since you've come here more times
Isn't
than
it immoral
before.
to call others idiots?
No, it's not, because I'm not using it as an insult. I'm using it as a descriptive term. So I don't think I should. I mean, you say, okay, so you could say it causes suffering, but ultimately, I think there's a greater use to it, right? Like there's ultimately it's for a greater good and greater enjoyment, right? And I think being honest about the truth helps actually then implement policies that are more helpful and generative of enjoyment. And as such, yes, you are immoral idiots. And look, you people, and this is what I've been wanting to do, and I've been wanting, and like why I've been wanting to do it, because otherwise it would be inconsistent. Because like people who have been aggressive to me, I was like quite harsh to them back. But then people who aren't aggressive but who are still a bit like who have bad ideologies, I've been much too friendly with them. And so that really, I've noticed that I'm unable to just, when I'm generally just speaking about stuff, I'm always just kind of have the same tone, and I can't really have a different tone. But at least what I can do is be very clear about where we stand. Okay, and this is precisely what I'm saying, that I actually am strong-willed. Okay, and this is actually extremely relevant. Okay, this is where I get to see that I'm very strong-willed, and you do not get to walk all over me. Okay, you are immoral idiots, and specifically, I already did this before in a previous stream, but it's good to have someone that whose name I remember particularly well, And so that I can address it specifically to a particular person as well. So mental states, you specifically, but also the other people. You're an immoral idiot, and I'm not your friend. Okay. And just because I act in a way that sort of seems friendly, just because sometimes I smile, just because I laugh, that does not mean make me your friend. Okay. The whole streaming here is entirely instrumental. The whole reason I'm streaming now, okay, since I'm not expecting to achieve like success currently through my streaming now, it's not for my own enjoyment, and it's not for your enjoyment. I mean, except in a very meta way of achieving of implementing my policies. But it's really not for those things. It's entirely now for the purpose of having a record for when I presume I do become famous and people look at this in the future and they will see that I've managed to at least finally say out loud things that, of course, I mean, this was always my stance, right? I would never have done this for any other reason. But I perhaps hadn't been as clear about it as before. I was hoping that I could actually change my tone when discussing things. I'm realizing that is actually very difficult to do.
So you do agree strong-willed is a preferable characteristic?
Oh, absolutely. But I consider myself to be strong-willed. That's the thing. And that's what I'm saying right now. Okay.
@_Nathan_L If you debate more famous people on stream you could maybe get some traction. I don't know if that seems appealing to you.
Well, okay, so I did try to debate some famous people. It's just very hard for me to get into debates with more famous people. And my impression is that
bring back the debates.
My impression is that it did not actually lead to anything. I once had a really big person, Rob Noor. That I had a debate with Rob Noor, and that there's a huge audience.
Rob
there.
Noor is a moron.
Okay, but it's a famous person, right? So it doesn't but it didn't get me anything. I never seem to get I never seem to get new streamers from the debates. Like when I was on Discord, right? You saw the Discord people. It didn't seem. I don't think any of the Discord people came here, unless I'm mistaken. Maybe some of the people that came from Discord, but I don't even see how because then I didn't even say I didn't. They didn't know. They had no way of knowing that what my stream was. They did. So no. You see, so the Discord thing doesn't work, and then the Twitch thing. Well, there it was. Rob Noor.
I out-argued Rob Noor, and he banned me.
Yeah, Rob Noor.
Rob Noor viewers would hate you. They're conservative rednecks.
Yeah, but Rob Noor Rob Noor was interesting. So at first, Rob Noor sort of seemingly, quote, just completely creamed me in a way because you just bring up all these facts about all sorts of weird riots and stuff that I don't care about and that I had no idea about. And he was, so I just didn't really have anything to say about on the issue. But so that was good because it gave me, it made me think about it and made me think about how I should handle myself in that kind of situation. But then when I finally got the upper hand, when I actually finally had a point, and I was clearly right and he was clearly wrong. He just cut the interview short. He just stopped it. He just left. He just got angry and said and he just cut it short. But then when he stopped streaming, he still rated me. So I got a bunch of his viewers onto my own stream. But again, yeah, they just thought I was a commie, obviously, because anybody that isn't just their crazy beliefs is a commie. That was that, and I didn't gain any followers from that. So I'm saying, that doesn't really seem to work, and the leftists don't like me either, and they actually ban me, whereas people like Rob Noor, they don't ban me. The leftists ban me, so there's not really anything I can do there. I'm banned from all the political leftist, practically, not all, but most, the large majority of them. I'm banned from them. So this is what I'm saying. There's really not much scope for that. And you see, and I'm back to getting friendly again. But
the Twitch leftists are insufferable.
Yes, they are absolutely insufferable. I agree. And it's good that I've seen that, because I mean, instinctively.
There's a streamer I know about who you could maybe talk to.
Okay, well, okay, if you want to, you can say the name, but I don't think it's going to really help much. I tend to be very
I think some
sympathetic.
people from there would follow. Twitch lefties are weirdos. Almost all of them.
And seeing how weird Twitch lefties are.
https://www.twitch.tv/KCLeirl.
Okay, we can have a look at that. Seeing how weird Twitch leftists are has then made me sort of more sensitive and more aware of how weird leftists in general are. So because I have this natural tendency to be sympathetic to leftists because they have this idea of helping the poor and wanting to sort of help things for everyone, right? So I'm naturally very sympathetic to leftists.
This
and probably
streamer is
more so
weird
than
as
his
well, though
market.
he's certainly more interesting than the average Twitch lefty.
And so okay, well I could have a look. And so then that's made me realize that even like the non-Twitch lefties who are like less weird, they still have a bit of that same weirdness, and it just brings me back. Then it reminds me of all that little weirdness that I'd sort of seen, and yet I hadn't really realized to what extent it's really
I
just
actually
part and
stopped watching
parcel
or
of
reading any
leftism.
politic-s content cause I have no impact on politics and doesn't get my life ahead.
Yeah, and that's why I stopped streaming about politics, you see. And obviously I don't watch or read politics contents either for that reason, right? So it's there's no point. Again,
The
I'm very
leftists are
action
not real
oriented.
socialists, they want to destroy the working class with their progressive nonsense.
I disagree with that. I think they very much believe in socialism, for the most part on Twitch. I know there's very much a faction of people who like this sort of quote woke stuff while not being particularly leftist, but that's a pretty different crowd. That's not so much the Twitch people, right? So I don't really agree with that. And but they're just weird. They're just like psychologically weird. They're weird in their behavior. They're weird in the way that they just get upset about anything, about all sorts of silly stuff. And so, but I've noticed that now I come to realize that just leftism in general is kind of that there's something weird about it. There's something like I come to realize that's not what I thought it was. I used to think that it really was just about making things better for everyone, kind of, and no, it's not that.
Yeah, we're right.
So like that, at first, I never was like into like actual socialism kind of stuff. I always thought that was weird, but I still would have considered myself a leftist before. But now I don't. I'm still more sympathetic to leftism than like to other stuff than to. I'm more sympathetic to it than what I call right wing, which is like what we know as libertarianism.
I hate the left due to their extreme man hatred.
And I'm definitely more sympathetic to leftism than conservatism. But I no longer see myself as a leftist at all, really. Even though there's some policies that would be shared, but like that doesn't there's some policies that are shared with like both quote libertarians and quote conservatives too. So it doesn't make any difference.
I am libertarian.
Okay, so you're libertarian. I disagree with the extreme man hatred. I think there's much more what do I mean by that? Yes, there is definitely a tendency for like focusing on how like males are always like oppressing females and how males always benefit from everything, and like that's definitely not true. And of course, then they actually try to they accuse males of stuff. They want to actually hurt males, like with policies that actually
Did you
are
watch that Barbie
discriminatory
film?
against males.
It's the worst movie I've seen in my life.
Yeah, I watched it. It wasn't great. I'm sorry, sad to say. It's sad because I actually stumbled on the production. I was in Venice Beach when they're filming it. I got some pictures of them, of Margot and Ryan on set. But
they are usually American and are frustrated on the current power dynamics in the US, but they confuse the fascist corporatism with small capitalism of the mom and pop shops. Well, I think you have a very universalistic worldview and are very focused on big things, and on the surface leftism masquerades as such. However, in practice they are far more particular and focused on minutiae.
I'm not sure who you're referring to mental states at this point. You mean that the Twitch leftists are against fascist corporatism, and they because they
I'm
conflate.
referring to you, streamer.
No, I'm talking about mental states. I'm saying so basically they associate the small capitalism with the fascist corporatism, and as a result, they also oppose the small capitalism.
The problem is the US is
that what you
run
mean,
by
mental
monopolies,
states?
especially the large corporations. It's not a free market. All
Yeah.
legislation is there to protect them.
Yeah, I agree with. It's not monopolies. It's that would be. I mean, that would just be terrible if it was monopolies. It would be like the USSR. It would be like communism. So it's not monopolies, but it's not as free as it could. Yeah, it's not as free as it could be. There is legislation that protects them. It's not even really oligopolies, but it's just that they kind of unfairly benefit. That is true. That is true. And yes, I have a very universalistic worldview. And it's true that they tend to, surprisingly, I keep thinking that leftists will tend to think the same way that I do, and I always I'm always surprised. Over years, I keep getting surprised, and it's weird. Like I never learned my lesson that no, they really aren't. They aren't like me. That's why I've come to realize that I'm just a separate thing that's just as separate as these other main things like conservatism and libertarianism. It's just another thing. I'm an List, and that is another category, right? And I'm glad. I'm glad to be my own thing, and I'm more
I want
thing.
small businesses, small mom and pop shops. That's the kind of capitalism that liberates people. The big capitalism of big capital tends to enslave people.
Oh, this is Casey Lee.
We're updating the state in a bit.
No, what's going on? Okay. I just exited. I don't know how to mute it. No, I know how to mute it, but I don't know how to. I don't know how to mute like that. Whatever. Yeah, you want small businesses. That's the kind of capitalism that liberates people. Big capitalism that just enslave people. I don't actually even agree with that. I'm even pro big capitalism. I'm pro all capitalism. I'm just anti privileging the big capitalism. Typically the bigger corporations tend to actually be advantaged in certain ways, and that is unfair. But no, big capitalism is good, and you know why? It's because of economies of scale. It makes things cheaper. That's why Amazon does so well. It's because it's so big. It has economies of scale. It makes things cheaper. That's good. That's so. I'm not even pro small capitalism. That's what I'm saying. I'm not leftist. I'm not anti-corporation. I'm not anti-big corporation. I'm pro business and of all size. So that is so very different from actual
big
leftism.
Corporations are good if there is competition.
Yeah, but in practice there is competition even now. But and the main thing precisely is actually the government regulation that benefits the big corporations. That's a problem. And of course, also a lack of a certain amount of regulation that will tend to, help remove the inherent advantages of the big corporations. But those advantages, they're not that huge either, right? Because if a corporation actually starts performing more poorly, then the smaller ones will start replacing them, right? So a big corporation still has to,
I'm a centrist.
Well.
I think we need to find a sensible middle ground between liberalism, socialism, feudalism, and fascism.
Yeah, I in a sense I'm a centrist, but of course none of these things really mean anything, right? I mean, in some ways I'm very extreme in one end, and in some ways I'm very extreme on another end, but ultimately just what I support is just the best policy. That's kind of why I like to say, as a synonym of my ideology, I just kind of call it goodism, right? You could call it arrogant, but I just think my policies are the best. And the point is that the whole idea is to have the best policies. So if one of my policies aren't the best, well, that was just a mistake on my behalf, and I have to change my ideology to instead choose the best one. So it's also just kind of a principle as opposed to a particular ideology. And in fact, I've changed a lot of stuff. In fact, since I started streaming 2 years ago, I've changed a lot of stuff. And I already called it goodism then, and I still call it goodism now, despite the fact that it's changed. So what I used to call goodism, I no longer call fully goodism. You see, so it's but I think, yeah, obviously we should be aiming for what's best, and I think that all these other ideologies clearly have very large flaws. So that's really what there's to say about it here.
No economies of scale are needed for just a few things. We are now in the fourth industrial revolution, and the economies of scale, the mass production of the third industrial revolution, isn't as important anymore. Do you still support
That's
like a
still
one
important
world
thing.
government with UBI and strict income caps and referendums and all that stuff?
So first, mental states. I still think there's always going to be economies of scale. You'll always have that kind of phenomenon where you'll have more people, less people needed to produce a given amount of things. But I mean, that's an interesting point. I could actually, it would be an interesting thing to look into, but it's again too complicated to, it would require too much thinking and too much researching on my behalf to actually do it. So I won't actually bother to do it. But it's an interesting point. Shenyang Gang, yes, except for income caps, which I've are optional. Now I've again recognized that income, and it isn't even income capping anymore at this point, it's consumption capping. So there's an optional consumption cap. But even then I wouldn't have it as strict as I had it before, probably. And I don't have any kind of strict like amount that I imagine. And this is because I've come to realize that actually, well, there's a reason that enabling high income is done, and it is actually good, right? Is that it stimulates investment. It stimulates risky investment in particular, right? Because you got to realize that most people, when they start like a business or they do an investment and stuff, most of the time it won't succeed. And so to make them want to do it anyway, you have to have a big reward. And of course, if they don't do it, then you'll have just less innovation, less production overall.
Yes, there will be still use for some things like certain high tech, but the inventions like printing products enable scaling down.
I also think it can be useful to have homogenization, to just know, to have a known value. Like that's kind of also what's good about having these big corporations, like you know what you're getting. Again, I don't have a strong opinion. But I do have the impression that having big corporations is at least okay. But one world government, yes, absolutely, as I've been saying, right?
Do you still support
UBI
democracy and direct democracy?
Yes.
Or have you acknowledged that sometimes the average person is not that bright?
And so referendums, yes. Direct democracy, yes. But I've changed. So now the thing is that there's the way it works is that some people, like, there's this concept called governors, which is not like the way we use the term currently. Governors, it just means the people who are allowed to vote, right? And so basically lots of people can stop being governors if they're proven to be too foolish, right? And so you determine that based on my own criteria for what makes you foolish or not, which are the actual correct criteria, of course. And basically, so if people are too irrational or if they have just too like factually or morally wrong beliefs, then they can be stripped of governor status and they're not allowed to vote anymore. I still have a minimum limit of 1/4 of the population having to be governors to avoid the development of an excessively small cabal that would be just too self-interested. And on top of that, I have now added, and this is already old, all this stuff, and I've already done this a long time ago, but it's true that I haven't been streaming much, so it's true that people would largely not have realized this. And so the other thing is that now I've added myself even on top of that. So now I'm actually the top level of government, along with my imagined 3 girlfriends that I'm expecting to meet, who will also be part of the top, and we would be the
as a dictator.
Tetrarch. Yes, but as a dictator of sorts, except that I would be still required to respect the Constitution, that I would be deposed if I would cease to be well mentally functioning, and also that what else is there? Yeah, that if there's disagreement between us four now, then that can be overridden by democratic vote of the population. So there are all these mechanisms that sort of keep the power in check of us. So again, so it's not about a power grab for me, right? It's just that I think that it's better like that, and I would just show restraint. If we don't have an opinion on something, then we just wouldn't make it happen. We wouldn't decide, and would let just democracy make the decision. So most likely, it would be a pretty hands-off government from this top level of me and these presumed three others. And then, of course, what I'm now I've added just much more recently, very recently, I've added another level on top, which is that I think that AI should just be the ultimate top level, because I think that ultimately AI will just be able to make better decisions than anyone, including me. So that has, so as I've said, then AI just replaces everything as much as at the top level, AI replaces everything, and then it just replaces the rest as much as it deems best. So that has been the development on that topic. So yes, but still basic income, yes, one world government, universal state, absolutely.
The first transnational corporations were
And
always highly
popular
entangled
votation.
with the state and was a decentralist system to engage in perpetual economic warfare with rival states. They were instrumental for the Dutch independence and took the fight to the Spanish overseas trade posts and colonies.
Yeah. Yeah, like again, I'm not knowledgeable enough to really be able to argue with that. Not even really, but it's not really relevant to my policies anyway. I don't think. But like, yeah, I'm just that. Those are my main policies, and then I'm also very much there. I think the main other obvious main thing that people would, that would represent a significant change to the current system in most people's eyes would be my policy on sex and nudity, which would be a lot more permissive, which would be just like fully permissive of everything that wasn't actually hurtful. So it'd be permissive of everything that wasn't rape or child sex. But pretty much everything else would go. Like now there's all these sort of weird forbiddances, like stuff like incest. That's weird. Sex with animals is weird when you can like kill them.
This has in essence not changed. Transnational corporations are still highly valued strategic assets of the nation state.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, sure. I mean, I know that. But and yeah, and so and like and marriage, like there wouldn't be the specific thing about marriage and whether or not you allow gay marriage or whatever. You just allow people to have any kind of contract they want with anyone and any number of people, any types of people, and there wouldn't be a formal thing called marriage, right? You just have contracts of like mutual rights and responsibilities. So that wouldn't actually be that visible to most people. The most visible thing would be that I would mandate legalization of public nudity, again because there's no good reason not to, except in particular circumstances, like if there's a pandemic or something, and also like you can mandate like wearing loincloths if you're going to be sitting on public seating and stuff, but other than that, it's just silliness, right? So it's no different from then just like mandating burqas and stuff. It's just at a different, it's just a quantitative difference, but not a qualitative one. So I think like it's the most obvious policy changes for most people would be a single state with freedom of movement within it, basic income, direct democracy, what I call popular votation with initiative referendum, and fourth, the most obvious visible thing of this sex thing, which is actually not about sex at all, which is not sexual at all, which is public nudity. And which shouldn't be a big deal, but I know for too many people it will be a big deal. And I do insist on that. So even if it's weird for me, it feels awkward for me, but I know why it feels awkward, right? It's because it's a thing that's become taboo among everyone. It's just a culturally implemented thing. I've abandoned all like hard positions on things like drugs and all these other things, like things that are pleasurable but harmful.
Adam
I had this
Hans,
large
the wealth of nations
list
came in
category.
handy for the British, who had the most developed industries, as Adam's hand theory would open foreign markets. The Germans and French said no thank you, closed their markets in order to develop their own industries.
Yeah, there's definitely a case to be made that a bit of protectionism to what they call to do import substitution is actually helpful for the development of industry, and that like the current policy of like the IMF and stuff of always wanting to countries to open up so that they would lend to them. I agree, that's not necessarily true at all.
So it's mandatory to be nude in public?
No, it's mandatory to legalize nudity in public. Mark, hi Mark, I don't call you before, but no, it means that you can't ban people. You can't ban people from doing it. You can't punish people for it. You can't stop them for it. You can't mandate clothing. So it's just freedom, right? So in fact, that is a much more libertarian position. See, not actual, but precisely. I'm more of an actual libertarian, but the nominal libertarians, the quote libertarians that I call libists, they don't even care about lots of stuff like that, and they would actually even like oppose it often. But in fact, that is like an obvious instance of libertarianism, right? Of something that increases freedom. So again, it's just for the principle. I'm not like a nudity fan. I'm not like it's not someone who goes to nudist beaches or something. It's not about that, right? It's about doing what's rational, and that's the rational position. And UBI, I've already explained in depth all the different stuff, though I've still come up with even more things. I think a few extra things
okay.
in favor of it.
I kinda like the idea. TBH, MHHHH. Was just at the beach Epipal watching.
Well, I'm glad you like it. I figured that most people would hate it, but I mean, even if you like it, that's the thing, is that people like it when they think it's like, young women and stuff. But when they think it's all these geriatric old people, then they kind of become less keen about it. But then again, you think about, when you go to the beach, you're already watching like these old
yes,
people.
Yes, the IMF neoliberal policy to open up markets has in fact become a kind of neocolonialism, wiping out local production, local industrialization. The global south is sick of it and are now joining BRICS, who expresses a different model for development.
I agree. I agree. And the universal state, you can in fact have that, because I've actually explicitly stated in the Constitution, well, actually the annex to the Constitution rather, that there is, normally you're not, there is freedom of movement, freedom of trade and stuff. Normally there isn't any tariffs, but if it's helpful for economic development, even just regional economic development,
I think the main thing that
explains
low economic development in the global south is just low national IQs.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is probably a bit of that as well, but it's more indirectly, right? It's not so much the IQ, but the institutions, is that it creates poor institutions, unstable institutions, unsafe institutions, and basically what that means is that people don't want to invest there logically. And so this is just an interesting thing that I come up with, that I've discovered, not come up with, but discovered, is the Lucas paradox.
Although perhaps being unable to effectively navigate geopolitics might be a product of that. You just showed your own low IQ by expressing a one-variable cause.
Well, it could be the main thing. It's not one variable cause.
Well, I didn't though, did I?
Yeah, Shenyang Gang didn't say the
I
only
said
thing.
main thing.
Yeah, not only thing.
Not this explains 100% of it?
Yeah, it's hard to know if it's even the main thing. I mean, main thing means it's at least 50%. Is it at least 50%? Likely, but I wouldn't say for sure.
It explains a lot of it. Because IQ is vital in productivity.
But so as I was saying, Lucas paradox. Lucas paradox is that normally investors should want to invest in poor countries because it's a lot cheaper, right? I mean, labor is cheap, buying equipment is cheap. Normally, capital should be flowing from rich countries to poor countries.
No culture is more important.
Basically, rich countries should actually be like their economy should be shrinking because all the investment would be going to the poor countries instead. And yet that doesn't happen. And why is that the case?
I would never invest in poor countries.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't trust the people there.
You can't trust the people. It's the combined thing. It's not just the IQ, right? It's the IQ which leads to a culture that is untrustworthy, and both in at the level of the business and at the level of the government, right? And both like at the current government and the risk that might get overthrown by another government. There's all that.
That's why the Chinese are outsmarting the West.
Well, the Chinese are starting from much, they were much poorer initially. It's much easier to catch up. You grow a lot faster when you're catching up. They get to benefit from all the prior growth that happened in the West, right? They get to like adopt the technology of the West. So obviously, it's a lot easier for them. It's remarkable, yes, but it's still a lot easier. So you can't really say that they're doing better. Like, it's not because they're actually.
They do invest in infrastructure of the global South. The West invests in bombs to bomb the global South.
Yeah, I do agree that the Chinese are doing a better job at investing in the quote global South. And I do actually think that that's a good thing. Some people don't like it because they say it's a neocolonialism, but of course, and the West has its own forms. So I do think investing, just in general, investing in poorer places is a good thing, and that should be favored. And like I said, so like I didn't finish saying, I actually support the possibility of having tariffs for developing, even if it's just now a single country, right? It would just be a single state, the universal state. We still could have tariffs to develop regions. It doesn't matter. Just like right now, for instance, we could have Italy, like southern Italy could have tariffs to prevent like the northern Italian products from.
According to Bayesian model averaging that incorporates a wide range of variables, the two strongest predictors of economic growth are already being poor and national IQ.
Okay, that's interesting. Fair enough. That seems certainly now. I mean, because we see that the Asian countries, right? All these East Asian countries are growing well, and they tend to have quite high IQs, and then elsewhere where they tend to have lower IQs, they're not growing so well. But of course, there's a confounding factor, which is that IQs grow with economic growth. So it's not all that simple, but I mean, there still does seem to be a significant correlation. Yes. So yeah. Okay, so you're right. Maybe mental states. Maybe I'm not that strong-willed, because it's true. If I'd been that strong-willed, I would have stopped streaming a long time ago at this point. I've always been staying up late, so
of course the analysis holds up when you use instrumental variables for IQ like ancestry-adjusted UV radiation.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it holds even when you adjust for variables and you adjust for like development and stuff. But yeah, so like I'm saying, it's true. If I'd been really strong-willed, I would have just stopped streaming. Which is something that strongly correlates with IQ, but also something that you would not expect to change as a result of economic development. I would have also shut up the speech chat at this point while I was saying this, but yeah. Anyway, I think it's time for me to stop, and I think it's time for me to stop kind of permanently, since I didn't really have anything else to do. But it's good. I'm glad to I've streamed like over a pretty large swath of the time of day, so I've got to have lots of different people who come on Twitch at different times of the day.
I will say nothing to break you down. I mentioned stuff to take into account and become stronger on a whole. Developing a strong will is vital.
Well, thank you. But I just don't think that you really recognize the strength of my will. I think people underestimate the strength of my will. Again, like appearances are deceptive, and just because I don't speak in the manner typical of someone of a strong will doesn't mean that I actually don't have a strong will. And also, I'm not strong-willed about stuff that I don't have a strong opinion on. So, I'll let others sort of take the lead if they have a stronger opinion on it, right? Because I don't feel the need to assert myself for something I don't care about. But for things I do care about,
I lost a limb last year. I'm invincible now.
Oh, sir, did you really lose a
Nothing
limb?
scares me.
Did you really lose a limb? I mean, that would be.
Yes.
I wondered. Oh wow, what limb was it? Like, yeah, I've been wondering. Like, that must be pretty. That must be pretty bad. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I would be really depressed from that. But I don't know. Like, I've wondered sometimes. Like,
Benevolence towards
how would I
different
react
opinions
towards
is
that?
a sign of a strong will.
In a way, I have a bit.
Or
I don't
something
have.
like that. Maybe he's a tree. Losing a single limb as a tree is no big deal.
Unless you're a coconut tree, which means that you die. But yeah. Um.
I was extremely depressed for 12 months. Now I am
Okay.
invincible. My mental is stronger than ever.
Okay.
Nothing scares me. Can I
Okay.
share a
Well,
video?
nothing scares you. Mental states. I guess you can, but I'm actually going to stop the stream. Again, sign of my strong will. Benevolence towards different opinions is a sign of a strong will. Is that, or you meaning that about yourself or about me? I don't know. But anyway, I uh, I think I'm pretty satisfied with my will, and it definitely has strengthened, and I think it has reached close to as strong as I'd like. And the thing is that the problem is that if it got stronger, then it would be callous, and I don't like these sort of callous, strong-willed people. I don't want to be like that. So in a sense, at
It
least
is
it sort
short
of
52
shows.
seconds. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=ICR10ml-8ys.
Well, again, given that I actually said I was stopping, and as a sign and demonstration of the strength of my will, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to click on that, and I'm just going to stop the stream instead. But uh, yeah. Anyway, thanks for the opportunity
come on.
of this. Nope. Thanks for the opportunity of this, and I'm
You
glad
are
also
missing
to.
out.
I'm glad also to have yeah, had this opportunity to like make things clear, right? Again, that we're not actually genuinely friends. Again, it would be weird anyway to be like friends with people on stream when I'm not friends with, like, I'm not real friends with people in real life. So this is the same as real life, you know. You've got acquaintances. I sort of act polite, but it's not like actually having friends. And it's sort of sad, and it sort of hurts me a bit to say this because I sort of feel like other people might be hurt, and then I'll be hurt that they don't like me from saying this and stuff. But
Hey, people can like each other and still argue.
yeah, but I don't feel it's even like that, and I don't think it should be like that. And that's the thing. I've got I for such a long time I always was really like weak in terms of wanting to please other people, and it never even worked anyway, so that just looked even more pathetic. And so I'm not doing that anymore. Okay, I'm the one who's actually now making it clear that everybody else is beneath me. Okay, and that my friendliness is just mostly a facade. Even though, of course, emotionally, I still kind of
So you
feel
are
a
a
kind of
pleaser and
friendliness.
I am a teaser.
That I suppose. I used to be a pleaser. I still very much have that tendency, so it's an instinct that I have to fight against. And so I'm quite satisfied with this, and I feel like I've done as much as I could be reasonably expected of me from that perspective. I've done what I
Maybe you
wanted to
can
do.
become a teaser too.
No, because being a teaser. I'm not sure what you mean by
I wouldn't
that,
mind.
but a teaser means like saying specific things about people and stuff. But it means coming up with stuff. I'm not a teaser because I'm not a person who comes up with stuff to say. I'm not a talker because I just don't know what to say and I wouldn't be able to. I just don't have the inclination to do that. I don't want to. I don't want to. You see, I don't want to say it. It bores me. It bores me to say sort of teasy stuff. It's just a bunch of silliness. So
Teasing is
so
poking people with ideas for me.
Okay, but is that really teasing? Isn't that just like making suggestions to people? Like teasing to me is like you sort of like make fun of somebody's like clothes, but in a sort of but not in a super nasty way, but not completely nice either. Like isn't that kind of like what teasing is, right? But mostly sort of with the intent of like sort of seducing that person, or like yeah, it's something like that, right?
I got teased a lot in school.
You got teased but in a good way, like I feel that usually like is that it can be seen as a good thing or a bad thing, but
I don't
certainly
know.
I certainly don't do teasing because I can't do it, and I haven't had much teasing either.
It's
So that's
indeed
just
not in a nasty way, but it is countering somebody's ideas.
I wouldn't call that teasing. I just don't know what I would call that. But anyway, like I said, I'm bringing this to an end. So without further ado, good night.